Are you fascinated by the unknown, the paranormal, and the unexplained? Do you find yourself drawn to stories of creatures lurking in the shadows and inexplicable encounters with beings beyond our understanding? Look no further than your one-stop shop for all things eerie and inexplicable. We specialize in bringing you the most chilling tales of the unknown, straight from the source. Our team of experienced researchers and storytellers have scoured the globe for the most shocking and awe-inspiring stories of Bigfoot encounters, UFO sightings, ghostly apparitions, and more. But don't just take our word for it, check out our best-selling book series, Shocking Bigfoot Encounters, on Amazon. With dozens of real-life accounts from eyewitnesses and experts, these books are guaranteed to send shivers down your spine and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the world around us. So what are you waiting for? Join the thousands of other curious minds who have already delved into the dark waters of the unknown and discover the truth for yourself at Shocking Bigfoot Encounters on Amazon.
Let me start by saying this. If you are sensitive to racial issues, you're going to need to not listen to what I have to say, because I'm telling you this story from my perspective as a 34-year-old white male who's been working for DirecTV for 5 years in the Chicago area. When I first got this job, I was immediately assigned to the south side of Chicago. Later, only later, did I learn that the last dude quit because he had been robbed at gunpoint 3 times and said, I'm done. I will get another job. Now, my background, I served in the military with all kinds of people. And even though I'm the whitest of the white boys, I fought alongside some of the bravest men I've ever known. And many of them were black. So I have no problem with dealing with the cultural differences between blacks and white. Even with all the events that I'm about to share with you, to this day, I still don't have any issues. I just have a unique understanding of black culture. Not that that's shown on TV, but the real black street culture. First day on a job, I have to do an install right off Sherman Park on 54th Street, Black P. Stone's territory. And it was just my luck. My first install was at a freaking drug house. I pull up and watch. The house is popping. People coming in and out of the door every 5 to 10 minutes. So I get my 9mm and my holster, tuck it, hop out. And when I get to the gate, I scream, "Cable guy, I'm coming in." This dude opens the door when I knock, and I'm not bullshit when I say he's 6'8", 6'9", looks like he needs to be starting for the Chicago Bears. And listen, a man of that size, you just know he's going to have a deep voice. But no, he's got this squeaky, stupid, half-retarded voice, and he says, "You here for the internet?" Trying not to laugh. I say, yeah, that's why I'm here. I gotta pat you down. Dude, as this big mother patted me down, I look through the door, past him, and there's this skinny dude, no shirt on, dreadlocks, smoking weed. And he says, "Yo, if that's the cable guy, man, let him in. You see them got a whole DirecTV shirt on, and there's an entire truck parked outside. What's wrong with you? Let the man in." That kind of is the reason why can't nobody get no cable around here right now, because y'all beef with people, man. Let the man in. And boy, when I tell you, I was so happy that he spoke up when he did, because big man was just about to touch my appendix where I was carrying my weapon. For the purpose of the story, we'll call him Skinny. Skinny looks at me and says, "Come on in, but if you tell anyone what you see, we gonna kill you." Now, when I walked inside, this was a for real drug house, about 30,000 cash on the table, weed, coke, chicks taking Molly and putting it in bottles of Benadryl. I look around and say, "Listen, I gotta go to the utility pole out back, run a line from there to the house. So I'm gonna start outside, then move back inside. That way, y'all can handle y'all business and I'll be out of the way. Is that cool?" I tell Skinny, "Listen, when I need to come back in this house, I'm gonna knock on the door 6 times. I don't want there to be no confusion. I don't want no drama. So I'm gonna knock 6 times. Skinny looks at me and says, "You one smart white boy. You're probably going to be all right around here in this neighborhood. And my reply to him was simple. Listen, man, I hear no evil, see no evil. All I want to do, get my... You understand? So now, I'm outside to the truck, up the utility pole working. I was there about 15 minutes when I hear footsteps below me. Looking down, it's this kid, gotta be 13 to 14 years old, blonde hair, black as midnight. He puts his finger over his mouth and says, shh, how many people in that house? I know you just left out of there. How many people in that house? Now listen, I find myself in a dilemma. Because I say when I was in that house, I saw no more than 6 people. 2 of the 6 were women. Now, and looking around, this kid got 5 people with him. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if these get to shooting and I'm up here on this pole, this is going to be a problem. So I lied. My man, I saw 16 people in that house, armed to the teeth. You might want to skip this or come back with more people, because this not going to end good for you at all. The kid looks at me. This 13, 14-year-old kid, who by the way is holding an AR-15 rifle, red dot scope, looks at me and says, good looking out, white boy. Turns around and they leave. I need you to picture the scene, me suspended 20 feet in the air, them walking away from me, every last one of them armed. And I'm saying to myself, holy, I gotta get this job done and get it over with. So I head back to the house, knock on the front door 6 times. And when big man opens, I walk in and I'm like, look, I need y'all to listen to me. I don't know y'all and y'all don't know me, but I'm here. Some 13-year-old blonde-haired kid was on the backside of the house with 5 other dudes. AR-15s, Mossberg, AK pistols. And they asked me how many people were in this house. This look of pure aggression comes over everyone's face in the room. I said, hold on. Before y'all go off, listen to me. I told them it was 16 people in here. So before you jump on me, I advise you to get on the phone and get as many people here as you can, because that kid seemed real determined. I've seen that look in a man's eyes before. That is a man who's up to no good. Slim looks around the room, then looks back at me and says, yeah, that's blinded little. I thought we killed him about 2 months ago. But you know what, white boy? Good looking out. Don't worry. We're going to be good. Next thing you know, everybody in that room is on their cell phones. So I tell them, look, I got to go back to the truck, then into the attic, drop the lines down the walls. And after that, I'm going to install the sockets and the devices, and I'm out. By the time I got what I needed from the truck, 4 cars pulled up, each carrying 4 people. That's 16 mother going into this house. And by the time I came down out of the attic, finished that job, it was 30-something people between the inside and outside of that freaking house. I'm standing there in the midst of all this marijuana smoke, drugs, guns, and cash. I tell Skinny, listen, man, I'm done. Y'all good to go. Everything is installed. Enjoy your new cable and your new internet. As I'm turning to walk away, I look at him and say, listen, man, y'all be safe, because that looked like it was about to end bad. Before I could walk out of the door, he says, yo, before you go, what's your name? Now, I don't want these dope dealers knowing my real name, so I tell him my friends call me B. He says, listen, B, I'm Skinny Joe. That's my bodyguard, Big Hurt. And if you ever in my hood and you need help, just knock on these doors. I don't give a what it is. You got a flat tire trying to rob you, police chasing you. If a bully your kid at school, knock on my door. Then he takes this wad of money off the table. When I say a wad, it's a fist full of money. Stuffs the money into my pants pocket and says, you're going to accept that because you saved us today. Don't offend me by trying to turn it down. Just take it and go about your business. And if you need me, knock on this door. Listen to me, when I tell you this is crazy, it was crazy, because Big Hurt walks me outside to the door of my truck, takes the keys, opens the door, escorts me into the truck like I'm his freaking date. I sit there for a moment and watch him walk back into the house. And when I finally dig into my pocket and count the money, it's $8,200. Are you listening to me? $8,200. So I call my wife and I tell her what happened, asking her advice as to what I should do, because I felt like I shouldn't be taking these people's money. But my wife, who's not only beautiful, but has a hell of a lot of common sense, and a lot of street sense. She says, well, you saved his life and it looks like you made a friend. But what I want you to do is get you out of that neighborhood and get home. We'll talk about the rest of this when you get here. Now, if you listen to this story and you think my first day on the job was eventful, wait until you hear about the third day. Two days after the shootout, my nerves are bad, and I knew it was going to be a bad day. But what I didn't know was how bad it was going to be when I got out of the shower that morning. This particular day, I have 3 install jobs and 1 maintenance job. The first at a small corner store. Now, I won't tell you the name of the store because it's real, and it got real that day. But I get to the store, and the layout is like this. It's a barbershop on the left, store in the middle, and a hair salon on the right. This is a mini strip mall. Now, outside of the store are all types of nefarious characters. Literally, pimps, whores, prostitutes, crackheads. And then there's this other thing. Honestly, at first, I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. But for the purpose of this story, we're going to call it The Thing. This individual is about 6'6" tall, has a red, short sundress on, skin black like midnight, gold hoop earrings, flat-chested, with the biggest booty I ever seen, a blonde wig on, and green contacts. Now, when I pull up and I observe the scene, my eyes are instantly drawn to The Thing. And I'm saying to myself, yo, this has got to be a dude. Look at the muscle structure on this. It's got to be a dude. Now, when I get out of the truck, Thing walks up to me and says, what you doing around here? You undercover? And I'm like, nah, what are you talking about? I got a job to do. And The Thing replies to me, I don't believe that. You look like one of them old CIA, FBI, DEA mother. What you need to do is get the from around here with all that law and order and justice bullshit that you got going on. Now, pause. For those of you who don't know anything about black culture, and especially hood black culture, confrontation is a part of living in this community. So you have 2 choices in that situation. You can stray away from the confrontation, and it's literally only going to escalate, or you can meet it with your own form of aggression. I decided to meet it with aggression, saying, listen, I don't give a f what you got going on out here. I got a job to do. Get the f out of my way. Let me go handle my business and do what I need to do. I raised my voice saying, you do you, I'm going to do me. You understand? Now, inside the store, I'm talking to the Indian owner, and he's telling me that he thinks the internet is the reason why his surveillance cameras are not working right. I'm trying to explain to him, no, dude, your cameras are hardwired. They are not using the internet. Now, he and I are arguing back and forth, and he's trying to explain to me that he can't log in from home and look at his business at night. And he's standing there hitting me with the Indian head roll. Don't call me racist. If you know anybody who's a real Indian, when they talk to you, they tend to roll their head. Next thing you know, people come running into the store, stumbling, falling, sliding on the floor, and you hear gunshots. And I ain't talking about one shot. I mean, they are outside letting loose. It sounds like we in Baghdad. Everybody's on the floor. I'm literally crawling over the store owner to get behind the counter. The glass starts to shatter, and I'm like, man, this day ain't even got started yet, and this is happening. Now, I'm ducked down behind the counter, and I hear a crash. I'm not talking about something crashing outside. I'm talking about a vehicle crashing into the store. And when I peek my head up over the counter, I see the big black blonde man. Pause. Let me express to you. I now know for sure this is a man climbing out of the back seat of the Honda Accord with a Desert Eagle. Now, how do I know this is a man? I know because the son of a was not wearing any underwear under that sundress. And he needed to be a porn star. For real. This dude starts shooting and talking. Y'all think y'all could come up here on my block and just take? Hell no. You gotta bring to get. You gotta bring to get. Listen to me. Can't tell you how many people were outside shooting at this man. But what I can tell you is, this was not scared at all. Because when his magazine runs dry, he ducks back into the car, pulls out a rifle, and goes to shooting again. Yeah, y'all done picked the wrong block, Listen to me, y'all. I done been in some intense situations in my life. For real. I'm talking about intense military combat. But that was in a foreign country. This type of thing ain't supposed to happen in Chicago. That's supposed to happen in Iraq. And listen to this. When the dust settles, 8 people been shot. Now ask me how many of the people were the ones that was doing the shooting. Not a one. Not one of them got hit. 3 days later, I'm over at West Pullman School. Well, not at the school, right across the street from the school. This time I had just pulled up and the drama pops off. Two people are outside in the front lawn across from the school arguing something about a woman. Seemed like one dude had come to another man's house to confront him about his woman. And the woman that actually lived inside of the house with the guy who was being confronted was not making the situation any better. She comes outside and says, Jeff, your ass needs to leave and go on about your business. Now the whole situation, I ain't gonna lie, the whole situation was very entertaining until the guy on the lawn says, I see how this is. I'm coming back, and I'm killing both you. Now, for those of y'all who do not understand this pivotal moment, and I ain't talking about black folks because y'all know that pops off. I'm talking about people with the skin color just like mine. And you may not understand this. When someone says something like that in a heated argument in one of these type hoods, you need to take that very, very seriously. How do I know? Because my dumb ass didn't take it seriously, and I'm about to tell you all about it. Now, instead of leaving, I'm looking at the situation saying to myself, all right, there's no way he about to wild out like this. He right across the street from the school. So I sit there foolishly and I play around on my cell phone. No. I was wrong because he comes back 15 minutes later. I'm going back to my truck from the house that I was working on. And I see him pulling up, hopping out of an old beat up pickup truck, no license plate, walk up to the front door with a shotgun, shoot the lock off to go inside like he's the SWAT team. Then the screaming starts, and you hear one shotgun blast. Then you hear what sounds like a 9mm shooting 6 shots. He comes stumbling out of the house, rolling into the lawn. And this kid, 15 years old, is chasing him, firing shots. And then the older guy that was arguing with him at first comes outside, and these are all shooting literally across the street from a school. Now, clearly, nobody in this situation ever went to target practice because absolutely nothing got hit. He hops in a truck, drives off, and I'm like, what the? 20 minutes later, the police are on the scene, and they come up to me, I guess because I'm white, and they figure I'm going to talk, and they want me to be a witness and tell them what I saw in the situation. Now, I tell the officer, sir, I have to work in this area every day. I didn't see a damn thing. Whatever happened with those people, happened with those people, and that is their business. The police officer looks at me like he's disappointed. I'm like, yo, dude, you got to be kidding me right now. You really think I'm about to get involved in this? Are you out your mind?
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal.
Look, I told my boss after the last shooting at the damn convenience store, I needed a break from the area. This son of a tried to force me to go right back in there and do more installs. So I told him, look, you can't force me to do. I'm not doing it. It's too dangerous. It's not like I'm trying to quit the job. I just want a few days off so I'm not in that area. Understand, at this point in time, I realized that my boss had never ever been in any kind of situations like the ones that I was finding myself into. But he insists and he keeps pressing and he keeps pushing. So we go to human resources, and human resources is supporting him. So I said, guess what? I call in sick. I got plenty of sick time. I'm not feeling good. I'm not coming in today. That's what happened on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm not feeling good. I'm not coming in. On Wednesday, I call in. Man, I got a fever of 109. I think I need to go to the emergency room. Listen, when I tell you I had to take a week off to get my mind right before I went back to work, I used an entire week of sick leave. And look, when I finally decided to go back to work, the first day was perfect. Not an issue at all. But the very next day, I'm back in the area over there by Skinny, but not really in the area about 5 blocks north of where I was with Skinny, and I run into that little teenager, Blondie. Understand, my heart is racing because it's him and 3 other guys, and every last one of them are printing. Look, for normal men who are in the guns and carry a gun, printing means you got a concealed weapon, but you can see it. But for these guys, what I mean by printing is you can tell that they got AR-15s inside their jeans. You can literally see the magazines protruding on the backside of their freaking jeans. Blondie looks at me and says, "Yo, ain't you the white boy from the alley?" Standing there thinking to myself, oh, it's going to go down like this. And I'm like, nah, I don't know you. Where we supposed to know each other from? And he's like, nah, Dad, I remember you. I remember you. Look, good looking out, white boy. Because we was about to run up in that house and we would have got up. I whipped around that block about 30 minutes later and it was about 50, 60 months out there, man. White boy, you might have saved our lives, man. Look, if you ever over in my hood and you need something, holler at me. I really appreciate you, right? Sure enough, my next install is dead smack in the middle of Blondie's little territory. Listen, just in case somebody hears this, I don't mean it in an insulting way. But he does have a smaller portion of territory. However, when I pull up over there, there is a very distinct difference in how things are operating. Over in Skinny's area, it's really business-like. It's quiet. You can tell he's well organized. Over here by Blondie, Lord, it's straight up thug heaven. People smoking weed, shooting dice, playing dominoes. Hell, there was a freaking rap video being filmed on the same block where I was doing the install. When I hop out of my truck, I'm saying, Jesus, take the wheel. Please don't let no crazy stuff pop off. Let me get in and out of here. But true to Blondie's word, I moved all around that house, inside and out. People looked at me, but I didn't have not one issue. But listen to this. As I'm wrapping up and coming out of the house, I noticed this white guy walking down the street. And I know his type because I've worked with them. Super duper liberal. Gentrification minded. He wants to move into the hood and buy a house before the prices skyrocket. But this dumb bastard done bought this house way too early. Not looking at the scene, he's walking down the street with his head down texting, and he's literally on a crash course with the cameraman who's recording the rap video. So I'm like, hey, bro, hey, look, hey. The man lifts his head up for a moment and gives me this look like I'm getting on his nerves. I try to get his attention again and I say, hey, come on over here. But he doesn't even look in my direction. Listen, he keeps walking with his head down in that damn cell phone and literally walks right in front of the camera as they are recording this rap video. You know how in those old Western movies when people walked into the barroom or the tavern, the music would shut off and everybody would freeze and would go quiet? That's what happened on that entire freaking block. The rap music shut off. The cameraman looked at him like he was retarded. And it was about 45 thugs. I mean hardcore thugs pointing guns at the camera while they were recording the video. They all stop and look at this man. And I say to myself, Lord Jesus, he is about. But I say to myself, oh my God. Funny when he told me this is funny. And I say to myself, Lord Jesus. Hold on. Let me get it back. And I say to myself, Lord Jesus, this boy's about to get mollywopped. Sure enough, next thing you know, the cameraman done pulled the gun, put it to his head. They surrounded the man, and they make him strip down completely naked, fold his clothes, leave them on a curve with his wallet and his cell phone, and tell him to walk back home naked. Now listen to me, as he's stripping down naked, they are taking pictures of this man. He is now looking over at me for help, and I'm saying to myself, no. You, bro, I tried to warn you, bro. You treated me like I was crazy. You looked at me like you didn't give a damn what I had to say. Nope, you brought this all on yourself. And I stand there as he walks in the direction from whence he came, buck naked, headed back down the street. They turn the camera back on and continue the rap video. As I'm sitting there cranking my truck up, I think to myself, this has to be the dumbest son of a on the planet. He might have gotten away with walking down the street, blending in and being completely invisible, had he just paid attention and did not walk in front of the camera. Now, finally, let me say this. Don't take this as being racist, because people are all sensitive. I'm not saying that neighborhoods should be segregated, because I don't believe in that. But what I'm saying is this. If you gonna move into somebody else's neighborhood, pay attention to what the you doing. Look, 4 days after homeboy walked home naked, covering his family, I have to go to this training class, right? Get the class, they going through the little preliminaries, what's your name, where you from, what area you work in. And as everybody's going around the room telling their areas, they get to me and I tell them, look, I work on the south side. And people start laughing. Now, I ain't really like it at all, because I'm trying to figure out what the hell is so funny, but these dudes is kind of being condescending towards me the whole freaking day. The whole day, taking little shots at me, saying stuff like, well, this install should take you about an hour, but if you're working on the south side, nobody will blame you if you cut a few corners here and there. The more this goes on, I realize that this is some racist. I may be a white boy, I may be from the country, but the one thing I'm not is I ain't racist, and I don't appreciate this. So the instructor's name is Brian. He gets to talking slick again, and I intervene and say, listen, people like you who ain't never been to the hood to the south side, you wouldn't last 10 minutes over there. So I would appreciate if you stop painting people with broad brushes. Everybody in the hood ain't bad, and everybody in the hood ain't good. Just like everybody in this room is not bad, and everybody in this room is not good. Based on your behavior, you're clearly not a good person. Listen, I get pissed off when people do stuff like that, because in the military, when you fight alongside men, yeah, you know the color of their skin and you know their ethnicity, but at the end of the day, that don't matter. We all trying to get home alive. And that's how I met all my people. But this little, clearly he grew up somewhere where he figured he could just judge people based on their looks, and I just wasn't having it. Now, there was a brother in the class named Terrence. Terrence chimes in, and he's like, yeah, I'm black, and I don't even go to the south side. And I tell you what, I'll bet my paycheck, Brian, that you won't last a day on the south side. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's one hell of an idea. Brian, I tell you what, are 2 paychecks against yours that you won't last 48 hours on the south side. Come with me to the south side for 48 hours and do 2 installs, and we'll see if you last. Now, you would think that some vanilla folder white boy who ain't never been nowhere, and we know he ain't never been nowhere, would not take us up on this offer. But no, he's got a point to prove. He goes on talking about how he worked in Long Beach, California, and that the neighborhoods in Southside Chicago can be no worse than the neighborhoods in the LBC. Now listen to me, he's talking in full white boy voice on top of this. There's no way that the neighborhoods in the South Side could be any worse than what I've experienced in the LBC. You crazy. I look at Terrence. Terrence looks at me and says, you done lost your damn mind. We about to get your entire paycheck. Listen, I tell Brian, give me 2 days. I'm going to come by. I'm going to pick you up and you going to go out with me. But I got a bunch of installs in real bad neighborhoods tomorrow. I'm going to make it easy for you. Give me 2 days and I'm going to pick you up. The very next day, I head to the south side and pass over there by Blondie. He's nowhere to be found. So I leave word with his people, tell him I need to talk to him, and get to work. Halfway through the day, I'm over there at Popeyes in the drive-thru, and Blondie pulls up on me. He's like, yo, what's up? You okay? You okay? My people said you was looking for me. Something happened? I'm like, nah, Blondie, I just need to talk to you about something, man. He spazzed and said, man, I've been riding around this all day looking for you because you got me thinking something done happened. I'm like, nah, Blondie, I just need to chop it up with you. Let's talk. So I get my food, pull over, and explain to him, I got this racist guy that's going to be on my route with me tomorrow. I got to do 2 installs. They both going to be in your area. I'm going to drop him off at one house, and I'm going to go to the other house. Now listen to me, at this point in time, I didn't really understand what happens when you tell a black person that somebody else is racist, right? Like, I knew that it would alarm Blondie, but I didn't know it would like literally summon some kind of racial demon that will rise up out of his body with wings and turn him into a whole nother individual. This look comes over his face and he's like, what? This gonna come to my hood? What? And I realized in that moment that I need to tone this down because he may just kill this man. And I said, Blondie, listen, I ain't trying to hurt the man. I just want to teach him a lesson. You know what I'm saying? We scare him a little bit. Tell him don't be judging people, blah, blah, blah. I ain't saying we need to drag the man from a truck. I'm not saying we need to do anything like that. I'm just saying I want to teach him a lesson. This look of calm starts to come over Blondie's face, and he hits me with the question. I got you, but what's in this for me? Why should I do this? And I tell him, listen, Blondie, we got to bet. He going to bet his entire paycheck that he can come to the south side and survive for 2 days down here. This is what I'm going to do. Listen, we're going to chop his money into thirds, me, you, and my other friend at work, Terrence. So what's in this for you at the end of the day is money. Listen, Blondie agrees to the terms, and I reiterate to him again, dude, I don't want to see this man hurt. I just want you to scare him, man. Please don't hurt this dude. As he's driving away, he looks at me and says, I'll scare the shit out of him, but I can't make you no promises on how he gonna react to what happens to him.
I am chopped and screwed, RIP to Pimp C. You think I was from Texas, but I come from Tennessee. We party all night and we on the Hennessy.
Listen, Blondie done pulled off now. I'm sitting there finishing my lunch, and then this other crazy stuff starts to happen. And honestly, this was absolutely fascinating to me because the level of talking that went on in this argument, man, if I could bottle that up, put a label on it and sell it, I would be a billionaire. So now, the guy that's in a drive-thru has both his driver window and his passenger window down. The girl that's serving him through that window has that window open. He is telling her, look, you have forgotten to give me my french fries. That's all this man says, and he doesn't say it rudely. He says, excuse me, you forgot to give me my fries. Now, understand, the woman's reply was completely off base based on what he said, and this started the most epic freaking argument I personally had ever heard. Because she says, get your broke from around here, you know you didn't order any french fries. He looks at her again and says, I'm telling you, I ordered some fries, they're on my receipt, here is my receipt. Listen to me. She takes the receipt, looks at it, and says, you cannot write on this receipt with a pen saying that you ordered fries. You did not pay for no fries. Get your broke out of our line and stop holding it up, or give me the money for the french fries. Now, I don't know if these two people had history, but based on what I was hearing, it seemed as if this had happened before between the two of them. Because the first word that comes out of his mouth after this is "you ugly." If you didn't have all that ching chong dead Chinese woman hair covering your ears, you could hear my order correctly and I would have my fries. She tries to say something back to him and he cuts her off again and said, "Woman, you are ugly. You look like your mama made it with a gorilla." She tries to talk again and he hits her again. "You so ugly, you need to be buried." Now understand, I am sitting there laughing, choking on my food, trying to drink something when he says, "Look at your dirty fingernails. You need to be put in somebody's washing machine. I do not even know why they have your ugly ass at the drive-through window. Nobody wants to see an ugly person like you handing them their food." Now the manager's walking up to the window trying to calm the situation down, and he goes off again. "Look, if the ugly back there that looked like a gorilla with blonde hair would have given me my french fries, I would not be sitting here in this line holding everyone else up. I want you to understand, woman, I am not moving until I get my french fries. Feel free to call the police, feel free to call whoever you want, but I want my fries. So you got two options. I can give you money for my french fries, or you can give me the fries free for the inconvenience. But either way it go, this line gonna be backed up to the mother street until I get my goddamn gone french fries." Listen, the manager's next words were muffled, but his words were very, very clear. Because he looks at the manager and now says, "You look like something from The Color Purple," and starts quoting the movie, "You told Harpo to beat me." Listen, at this point in time, my stomach is cramping. I'm feeling nauseous, and he just will not stop talking about these women. "You fat, fake, broke Oprah Winfrey looking, give me my french fries, take this money, or I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna talk about all you inside of this Popeyes, including the gay one standing back there looking like a black broomstick with a wig on." Look, I guess the manager had enough of the foolishness because she literally takes a bag of fries, throws them into the front seat of his car. He pulls off, and the whole situation goes bye-bye. Listen, when I was in the military, we talked about each other. You know, we snapped on each other here and there, little small things about somebody's nose, their eyes, their lips, you know, their feet. But I ain't never heard nobody go off like I heard this man go off. Anyway, fast forward. The next morning, I have Brian with me, and he's being all proper. And I tell him, "Listen, Brian, you're going to need to drop that whole proper accent and stop acting like you in a corporate boardroom somewhere, because you out here on the streets, and that might get you killed. What you need to do is just be yourself and be who you are. Relate to people on whatever level you can and keep it moving. But don't come out here being pretentious and acting like you own everything, because you're going to get hurt. I'm telling you, don't do that." And based on his response, I knew he wasn't going to listen, and I knew he was going to learn the hard way, because he's like, "I've been in the field for 15 years. I've seen it all, okay? There's nothing that you're going to show me out here that I'm not going to be able to deal with. I've seen everything. You understand what I'm saying to you? There's not much that I'm not going to be able to deal with." Now, the minute we hit the first block of Blondie's hood, kids are on their bikes following us, and they just whistling away, riding around whistling. He looks out the window and says, "Man, what are all these kids whistling for?" I'm thinking to myself, well, I tried to warn you, but you're going to find out real soon. I take him to the house. He gets his equipment, and I'm like, "Look, here's my cell number. If you need me, I'm going to be about 4 blocks away. Give me a call." A few minutes later, I'm at my location. I hop out, get to work. Halfway through my job, I feel my phone vibrating in my pocket. But I'm in the attic in an awkward position, and I can't get my hand to my pocket. So I'm thinking, okay, whoever it is, I'm going to call him back later. But it starts to vibrate again and again and again and again. And now I'm like, damn it. So I climb down from the attic, reach into my pocket, and there's Brian on the phone. And he sounds scared. And I say, "Yo, Brian, what's up? What's going on, man?" He says, "I've been told that I have 10 minutes to leave this neighborhood, and I have wasted 5 of my 10 minutes calling you. I'm going to need you to come get me, and I'm going to need you to come get me right now." I'm like, "Look, Brian, I'll be there in a few minutes. Just chill out, relax." He starts screaming, "You're clearly not listening to me. I'm telling you, I have 5 minutes left, and you need to come get me right now." Listen, at this point in time, I don't know what the hell Blondie said or did to this man, but all I know is he's scared the living daylights out of him, because when I get there, he is laying on the ground next to a wall, hiding behind 3 garbage cans. And when I pull up, he runs to the car, hops in, and says, "We gotta go, and we gotta go right now." When I try to figure out why he needs to go right now, he tells me that this little blonde-haired kid threatened to kill him and told him that nobody gave him permission to come into his neighborhood and do cable work. There is only one cable guy allowed in his hood, and that was me. Now understand, it took everything inside of me not to laugh, and I just wanted to teach him a lesson. Now, my plan was to head on over to Blondie, introduce the 2 of them, and make him understand that Blondie is not such a bad guy. So I tell him, "Look, Brian, let's go talk to this kid and find out what's going on and see if we can square it away." But he's too afraid. He insists that I take him back to the office. And I tell him, I said, "You do understand that if we leave this neighborhood right now, we are not going back to the office. We're going straight to your bank, whatever bank you bank with, and we're going to get my money." His reply to me is, "I bank with Chase Bank. You can stop by any Chase Bank and I will give you your money. But we need to get the hell out of here right now." So I drive him over to Chase Bank, watch him get out, go into the bank, come back outside with my money, and I drop his scary back off at the office and head back into the neighborhood to finish doing my job. I do those 2 installs, head on over to Blondie's block and have a conversation with him. The first thing I say is, "Blondie, man, I don't know what the hell you did to this dude, but he was scared out of his mind." And that's when I learned how bad he got. Picture the scene. He's outside in the backyard on a ladder, drilling a hole through the house so he can run a wire to the inside. Brian saw Blondie and his boys walking up. He lets them close in on him. He's still on the ladder when they close in on him. And when Blondie presents him with the question, "Excuse me, who are you and why you're here?" he tells him that he's the cable guy and he's here to install cable at this house. And he tells Blondie that frankly, it's none of his business. It's between him and the homeowner. Blondie goes on to tell him that there's only one cable guy that's allowed to work in his hood, and it ain't you, so you need to pack up your and go find the normal cable guy. He climbs down from the ladder, looks him in the eye, and says, "I've worked in the LBC, and people like you do not intimidate me." Say that. Lord Jesus, what would make this man say something like this? Next thing you know, guns get pulled. They run his pockets, get his wallet, his driver's license, his personal cell phone, and tell him he's got 10 minutes to get the fuck out of their hood because they're going to the store to get something to drink. And if any of his is still here when they get back in 10 minutes, they're going to kill him. Look, now I'm really feeling bad about the situation. I'm saying, "Blondie, man, I thought I asked you not to hurt the man." Blondie says, "Listen, man, I ain't do nothing to him that nobody going to be able to see. Hit him a couple times in the chest with that pistol, made him lay it down, took his stuff. He going to be fine. Now, he might have a bruise, but he'll be fine. Tell him rub a little bit of dirt on it. It'll be okay." Now I'm digging in my pocket, right? I'm trying to give Blondie the money that I owe him for doing this. He's looking at me like I'm crazy. Sticks his hands in his pockets and pulls out like $25,000 cash. We talking about a stack of money so tall that it ain't folded. He had to slide it out of his pocket. He tells me, "Look, hold on to that money because I need it way more than he does, and keep that racist out of his neighborhood."
Hell froze over, red rover, better get your ass before the snow get low shoulder for your soul get frozen? Am I supposed to let it go when my hopes get dashed by this bleak weather forecast?
All I wanted were some sunny days, but they never seemed to come to me. Tried to get him out his dungarees, never got past having lunch with me. Guess it's funny how in some degree funny people seem to reek like CK's other hand that's not touching on the telephone. Keep it bouncing like the hands upon a heart out like let it go. Singing Elsa touched my testicles.
Damn, why you gotta ruin children's movies for the spectacle?
Papa up on the scene, baby.
Ring, go away. Don't come again or I'll fucking spray some shots into the air like every doctor, every day. I'm gathering a child's play, but you don't fuck about the gun laws. This is America. Go out and get more guns today on a discount. With no background checks and bullets free if you buy 6 now. And they should take up on illegal shit.
Now, things have been going well for me on my job. Was it wild? Yeah, it was wild. The most absolutely insane, random, crazy things would happen when I was on the south side. But you know how we human beings are. We adjust. And I started to develop this sixth sense. Like I got to the point to where I can see the situation before it happened. Damn near like I had this hood psychic ability and I knew when to get the hell on out of the way before some went down. And over time, I started to develop an appreciation for people who lived in the hood like this. Because they all had the same psychic ability. Everybody knew when it was time to get the hell out of the way because some drama was about to pop off. It's absolutely amazing once you develop that skill. It's almost as if this antenna pops out of people's head and they read the situation and they say, oh, they about to start shooting. I'm getting in my car and I'm about to leave. Now, the day all this craziness I'm about to tell you about went down was a Friday. I get this assignment, a trouble in an area I've never been before, the Heights. And the minute I pull up, I knew this was going to be because the box that I needed to repair was right on a corner where these cats was hustling and selling dope. So I circled the block, pulled back up and asked them for direction, saying, yo, I'm looking for street. Do you know where it is? This brother walks up to my truck, takes his hat off, revealing that there's literally a chunk of his head missing. He says, listen, this the block you looking for right here. But we out here putting in work. You gonna have to bring your back later. Listen, I'm in a situation here where I'm not about to argue with this man, especially when he got 6 other dudes behind him, all of them looking at me like they're willing to put a bullet in my ass. So I tell him, look, dog, I got other jobs to do, but I'll pass back in a few hours. But I got to tell you, if I don't get this problem taken care of today, my boss is going to be on my, and I'm going to be left with absolutely no choice but to tell him that I can't get access to the box because you guys are out here on a corner hustling. Now that's going to end bad for all of us. And I don't want nothing like that going down because I got to work in this area. I don't want to snitch on you, just like I don't want you hating on me. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit the block, go handle my other jobs. I'll circle back and check back in with you. Out of respect, bro, that's what I'm gonna do. But I gotta get this done today. They got little old ladies in y'all neighborhood that don't have their cable and they call in the station and my boss is spazzing out. We on the same page, homie? Nah, this dude with this gigantic chunk missing out of his head looks me dead in the eyes and says, yo, I appreciate that. Circle the block back later and I promise you, we're gonna let you get to work. So I pull off, go around, handle the other work, and I pass back 4 hours later. Pull up, hop out, and I'm ready to get to work. The only problem is the dude with the chunk missing in his head is not there anymore. It's this other cat, and he ain't having it at all. As I walk up to the box, he says, hold us up, white boy, what you doing? I'm like, yo, listen, man, I'm sorry, but I got to get these people their cable back on out here. It's been out for hours. I try to tell him, listen, I was just up here a few hours ago talking to your partner with the hat and the funny looking head, and he told me to come back. So I'm back. Now picture this. The original guy I talked to with the chunk missing out of his head, his body language wasn't aggressive at all. But this dude, his body language is aggressive. And that's when one of the other guys behind him butts in and says, yo, chill. Chunk told him to come back over here and get his job done. The two of them have an agreement. Let that man handle his business. Man, this crazy looks at that dude, reaches in his pants, and draws his gun, saying, this is my time on the block. I'm capped. For the next 12 hours, all you here Every last one of you is gonna do what I tell you to do. Then he looks at me and says, and you, white boy, you gonna need to get from around here. Now listen to me, the entire time he's ranting and raving, going back and forth, he's swinging his gun around, going the fuck. And this white boy not finna draw attention to our block while I'm out here trying to get this money. So white boy, you gonna need to leave or you gonna get a bullet in your head. Look, this situation has gotten to the point to where I'm not comfortable with this at all. I dealt with a lot of crazy men in the hood, but this dude is going overboard. So I tell him, listen, here's our two options. I could duck off over here, handle my business, or bro, I'm gonna have to call my boss. My boss is gonna call the police. They're gonna come out here, they're gonna clear this block so I can get this job done. Like I told your mans with the chunk missing out of his head, I don't want none of that. All I want to do is do my job. I can get this done in 30, 45 minutes. If y'all just let me handle my business, I'll be gone. Listen, imagine me standing there, my arms up in the air, palms faced out, straight up trying my best to disarm this situation. I tell him, yo, hold on, dog, what's your name? His reply is Leslie. I'm thinking to myself, this standing in front of me, waving a gun around, his name is Leslie. And I'm telling you, it was hard for me not to laugh at that point in time, but I knew if I ran and laughed, this was going to turn into some type of shootout. Now, I don't want to be calling no grown man a woman's name, so I'm like, Leslie, what's your nickname? He says, my nickname is the same as my mother's name, Leslie. Now, I'm telling you, this has the most terrible attitude of any individual I've met from around the entire world. Now, I'm going through the process of repeating all this that I just said to him all over again, trying to make sure that there's absolutely no other option. Leslie, dude, I just need 30 minutes to handle my business. 30 minutes is all I need. If I don't get them 30 minutes, again, I'm telling you, I gotta go to this truck right now, take out my phone, call my boss, and tell him that I cannot get this trouble fixed because people on the block will not let me get it fixed. It's better if the two of us work together. Y'all just give me the block for 30 minutes and let me handle my business. Leslie, can we do that? Can you just give me 30 minutes to handle my business? Now, the rest of the crew on the block, they all shaking their head in agreement because what I'm saying makes perfect sense. But nope, not Leslie. He starts to go the off again. If Chunk won't come back on this block and let you handle your business during his time on the block as captain, then you gotta deal with Chunk. But as long as I'm out this, as long as Leslie is on the block, you not doing. And again, the same cat who spoke up earlier starts to speaking up again. And he says, yo, Leslie, this don't make no mother sense. This white boy could have been a puss. He could have just straight up called the police, ran us off the block, did his work, and went on about his business. But no, he's being a man. He came at us like a man. He understands what's going on. All he want to do is put in his work and make his paycheck. I don't understand why the f you won't let this happen, Leslie. This don't make no sense. You all up in your head trying to act like you tough. This man just trying to handle his business like we handling our business. Leslie, right now, you are up, and you are up on a level that's going to come back to haunt every last one of us out here. You know, if this block gets shut down, that's your ass. So I don't even understand why you out here doing this. Listen, that back and forth between the two of them only infuriates Leslie even more. And he says, man, for all that, if Amazon won't bring his mother down from his high tower and come to this block and check me, let him come. But as long as I'm here on this mother block, this white boy ain't doing, and he lucky I don't shoot his. Listen, if you listen to the story, I want you to realize right here, there's nothing else I could do. I done tried to plead with him. I tried to reason with him. His people tried to reason with him. He ain't hearing nothing that nobody got to say. So the only thing left for me was to carry my bag to the truck, call my boss, and tell him what was going on, and wait until the police came, right? Listen to me, I'm picking up my tool bag, and I'm headed back towards my truck. And this is when Leslie up. Because as I'm reaching down to pick up my bag, he points the gun directly at me. Now, when I tell you, I didn't do this on purpose. My military training just kicked in. I reach for the weapon, pull down, tap it, rack it, bust him in the face again with the weapon, and he falls to the ground. Now it done got very, very real. And I'm thinking, I'm about to have to shoot every last one of these out here because I done bust their boss all in the face. His nose is bleeding. He got a chipped tooth, and I got the gun drawn on him. Scanning the crowd, nobody's moving. They're all looking at me like, man, you need to shoot this stupid. Well, listen to me. I ain't out here trying to be violent because I already know that violence only begets violence. I tried my best not to let this escalate whatsoever. So I tell Leslie, get your off the ground and let's talk about this like men. Because you done pointed a weapon at me and I got every right to kill you, but I ain't out here for this. As he and I are holding this conversation, up rose this blue drop top Bentley GT. And when I tell you the driving this Bentley GT looks like a supermodel, this dude looks like a supermodel. I still have the weapon pointed at Leslie, trying to calm myself down in the situation, when this dude gets out of the car and I realize that he has got to be the baddest from around this area, because everybody immediately started treating him like he was Mufasa in The Lion King. This brother is light-skinned with green eyes, bald-headed, about 6'6", muscular as a mother, and he has tattooed teardrops going down the right side of his face. He looks at me and says, put that gun down. Then he looks at the crowd and tells everyone else, take your guns out and put them all down on the ground. I'm still holding my weapon as I watch the rest of them start pulling weapons out of their pants and laying them on the ground, and I realize that I don't know who this is, but whoever this is has got a whole lot of power. So I put the weapon on the ground. Then I reach inside my pants and take my concealed carry weapon and put it on the ground because I don't want no smoke with whoever this is. Now listen to this gangster that walks right up to me, extends his hand, and introduces himself as Amazon. He says, I have been watching this entire thing transpire. Sir, I would like to tell you that I appreciate the respect that you have shown. But this no good right here is about to make my block hot, so I came here to deal with him. Now listen to me, there's things that you understand about human nature. And looking in this man's eyes, there was literally no soul there whatsoever. I had seen those eyes plenty of times when I was serving in Afghanistan. Men who had taken so many lives that they were just soulless. And those men who behave that way, they have this calm about them. There is nothing, no situation that can rattle them. This is what I was experiencing with this cat Amazon. He looks at Leslie and says, you out here, not my money, with this man when he's showing the proper respect and you are causing problems. Now you could tell by the look on all those guys' faces that they were trying to figure out how the hell he knew what was happening. When he says, yeah, I have eyes everywhere. I see everything you do. And like I done told y'all over and over and over again, this organization is about making money. It's not about violence. It's not about being tough. It's not about murder. It's about money. And y'all are out here up my money. Listen to me. I never caught this other cat's name, but he speaks up again and he says, Amazon, my man, we've been trying to tell him to let this dude handle his business. Everyone on the block is in agreement that this man needs to be able to handle his business. This right here, this your man that you hired, your man is wilding. You put him in charge, he wilding, ain't nothing we can do. Now listen to me, it had already gotten real, but this one went up to the roof and completely jumped the off. Because Amazon says, I'm going to pay $10,000 to the first one who picks up a gun and puts a bullet in Leslie's. Remember when we was kids and you played dodgeball and they had all the balls lined up on the ground? But in order to start the dodgeball game, everybody had to run to the balls, pick them up, turn around, run it, then throw them. That's kind of like how this went down. Because these went to reach and fall and push and scratching to get to a weapon off the ground. And the next thing you know, Leslie had bullets all up in his. I'm falling backwards, rolling, trying to get the away. And Amazon didn't even move. He's standing right next to this man while they are shooting at him, and he didn't even flinch. And listen to this shit. When the shooting was over, he turns around, walks to his car, gets back in, and says, white boy, You got 45 minutes to get your job done. Then he turns to them and says, y'all have 15 minutes to clean up this mess. If he's still alive, take him to the hospital. If he dies, you know what to do, but get this blood off my block and get y'all back to work. Now pause for a second, because I've seen a lot of violence. I really have. But the that went down this day completely my head up, because I watched these dudes get Leslie up off the ground, put him in the back of a car, drive him off, roll out a pressure washer, pressure wash his blood off the ground. After they pressure washed the blood away, I watched them come out with one of those little squirt can containers, squirt the substance on the ground, and then pressure wash it again. Within 10 minutes, you wouldn't have never even known that someone had gotten shot. So the only thing left for me to do was to do my job. I'm there for the next 15 minutes, working on a box, trying to get the cable up, when Chunk walks up on me and says, yo, white boy, I'm gonna need to get a copy of your ID. I tell him again, I don't carry my wallet. All I carry is 20 bucks for lunch, my work ID, my concealed carry weapon, and my office cell phone. These are the only things I keep on me when I'm on the job. Chunk repeats himself again, saying, look, Amazon told me that I need to get some information on you, and I don't want no problems with him, so we gonna have to figure this out. Where is your ID? I tell him, my ID is back at the office in my locker. You are more than welcome to snap a picture of my work ID. I'm everywhere on the south side every day. I don't want no problems with y'all, Chunk. I went out of my way to make sure we don't have any problems. To which this man replies, I realize that. I know this, but I still have to do what I need to do. Let me see their ID. So he's there snapping a picture of my work ID. And I say, man, you know, what's the deal with this Amazon dude? Why do they call him Amazon? And he tells me the most gangster that I've ever heard. He says, we call him Amazon because he's a lot like the company Amazon. He can get you that work anywhere in the United States. And at the same time, if he wants to get you touched, he can get you touched anywhere in the United States. But Amazon is the boss because he don't mind touching you himself. Listen, man, when I tell you I've never fixed any kind of trouble or problem that fast in my life, I've never worked that fast. And true to their word, they vacated the block for the entire time I was there. They scattered in all directions, went across the street and sat on a porch. Some of them went inside the store up the street. Nobody was there but me and Chunk. When I was done, Chunk walked with me back to my truck and was like, yo, dog, if you ever got to come back down here and do some work again, please come over here and talk to one of us first so we don't have no problems, man. Look, I gave him my word that if I was ever anywhere within the vicinity of their area, that I was coming to this block to see them first, because this here was way beyond anything I get paid to deal with. Now listen to this. At the end of the day, I head back to the office, right? My boss pulls me in and starts chewing my out. He's like, look, you were supposed to get this taken care of in the AM. You didn't get it taken care of until 3 o'clock in the evening. If you don't get your together, we're going to fire you. Huh. Man, I'm sitting there across from his desk, leaning back, looking at him like he done lost his mind. I tell you what, if you think you got somebody that can handle this better than me, and you can send their into that neighborhood to deal with this better than me, please send them over there and me to another area, because the shit I'm experiencing is not worth $75,000 a year. It's not. So if you have someone better for this job, or anybody in this office, understand at this point in time, I'm getting loud. Any in this office that's willing to carry their ass over there and do what I do, please reassign them and let me get the hell out of there. Send them there for a week. Send them there for 1 day. And let's see if they can do what the I can do. Man, when I tell you I was pissed off. His didn't even care to know the reason why I couldn't get the job done on time. He never asked. So I went on and explained the whole situation to him. And upon completing the explanation as to why I couldn't get the job done in the morning time like he wanted it, he only sat there with his mouth hanging wide open. So I tell him, boss, I think I'm feeling a little bit sick right now. I might need to take a couple of days off. Touching my forehead. Yeah, I think I got a fever. I might be coming down with a cold. And guess what? I get my ass up, walk out of that office, go home, and for the next 3 days, I call in sick. You want to know why? Because I wanted him to send somebody else into that neighborhood so they can all figure out what the hell is going on.
Don't step on the trail. Don't step on the trail. Tempo, tempo. Can you keep up with my tempo? Tempo. Yeah, yeah. Blowing up, C4. I just hit the Mike Jackson on my tiptoes. Oh yeah, now I know we go wherever that wind blows. The endo. Don't step on the trail.
I want you to understand something. To me, people are people. I don't care what your skin color is or your politics is, or I just don't care. I don't care what your gender is. People are people. And I hate to see people get hurt, especially over unnecessary stuff. But that's what I started to experience more and more on the job. Like I told you, after my boss started, I decided to take a couple of sick days. During that time where I took sick days, he tried to send another person into the South Side to handle business, and they were literally ran out within an hour. So now I'm back on the job, and I have a backlog of work because nobody else has the balls to do what I do. Now, sidebar note, because all of the stuff that had went down, and I was the only person that could go in there, before I went back out on a job again, I sat down with my boss and negotiated a raise. I needed more money to do this. Understand, baby, I was feeling unappreciated because nobody else was going into this area. So I told him, hey man, if I'm gonna keep going out here risking my life and risking my limbs for this company, I'm gonna need a little bit more money. Get this, he offers me $10,000 more a year. We're sitting there talking and I tell him, boss, put your hand on the table. He puts his hand on the table. I pick up a pen and I say, boss, how much money would you be willing to pay to guarantee that I cannot stab you in the hand with this pen? To which he replies, well, to me, my hand is priceless. I smile and say, exactly, boss. You asking me to go into this dangerous neighborhood for $10,000 more. A man like me is actually priceless to this organization, especially when you know you can't get nobody else to go in there. Even the black folks won't go into this neighborhood, boss. So I'm priceless. Now, we got two choices. I can get a raise of $25,000, $30,000 and go to work, or I can take all my experience, all my relationships, all the understanding I have of this neighborhood and go to one of your competitors and go work for them and ask them for $120,000, $130,000 because I've been in there when their people were there and they get ran out as well. So we got a choice on our hands, boss. You can pay me more money now and to give me a raise at the beginning of the year, or I can take my skills elsewhere. But what's not going to happen is I'm not going back in there for $10,000. He looks at me and says, listen, I don't want you going anywhere. You're right. You're very valuable to us. Let me do some talking and let me see if I can come back with a number that makes sense. I gently remind him, $10,000, boss, don't make no sense. It doesn't. What makes sense to me is $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 because I'm literally risking my life going to work. He agrees. I get up and I head back to work. Now, like I was saying, because nobody went to work for those couple of days, the jobs were backed up. So I'm bouncing around everywhere. But I saved my last couple of jobs for the area over there around Blondie. I hadn't seen Blondie in a while. I wanted to holler at him. So now I'm over in Blondie's neighborhood, actually on the block where him and his people hang out. I'm up in my bucket truck working on a line when I notice this black sedan pull up on the block. Now, on the other end of the block is Blondie and his crew. They out there filming another one of their rap videos, bouncing around, dancing. The cameraman is literally in the middle of the street. They're doing what they normally do. Now, this black tinted out vehicle definitely got me nervous. So I'm keeping an eye on it as I'm doing my work. Maybe about 10, 12 minutes pass when I see a cat get out of the back seat of the vehicle, circle around to the trunk, and grab a AK-47. Listen to me, while he's in the trunk, that door is left open, weed smoke is coming all out of the vehicle, and I see that there's at least 2 more people in that back seat of that vehicle. So now I'm like, holy, some crazy stuff about to go down. And the only thing in my mind that could be popping off is they going up the street to over Blondie and them. Now, understand, as cool as me and Blondie was, I don't have Blondie's number in my phone. I don't have no way of calling him and letting him know what's going on. And at the same time, these dudes are close enough to me to where if I start trying to alert him or scream or holler, all they got to do is start shooting at me. So now I find myself in a moral dilemma. Do I try and get down, speed up the block and let them know what's coming? What the do I do in this situation? Listen, I'm up there debating. What the should I do? And by the time I decide I'm about to get out this bucket, get in my truck, drive down there and let Blondie and them know that these dudes is coming, they slowly pull off. Now I'm whistling, screaming, waving my hands, doing everything I can do to get their attention. But they're filming a rap video and the music is blasting too loud. So the only thing I could think to do was to draw my weapon and start firing rounds in the air. Now picture the scene. I'm up 25 feet in the air in the bucket. My weapon is pointed to the sky and I empty the magazine. Blam, 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 blam. Understand, my ears are now ringing. The vehicle is speeding down the street. I can see that Blondie and his crew now are focusing in on that vehicle. And then all hell breaks loose on some bombs over Baghdad, people shooting, running, ducking. The cameraman gets ran over. And what I mean by ran over, he's hit by the vehicle, popped up into the air, flips over the hood, lands on the ground behind the vehicle. Cats is falling, running, ducking, sliding. It's going crazy. Now, listen to me. Whoever these dudes was in this vehicle, they was about that life because they speed up, dumping. One guy is hanging out the sunroof, yak, 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 shooting. Listen to this. They hit the corner, turn right, make a U-turn and come back. Yak, 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 yak. Listen to me. I'm up and up looking at this, saying to myself, oh my God, this is wild. Then I watch as that same vehicle speeds by me, up the street, makes a left, and disappears. Now listen to me, when I tell you this was some wild violence, this was some wild, violent, because I get down from my bucket truck, drive down in that direction, and it's blood and skin and people laid out everywhere shot. Everywhere. Now listen to me when I tell you, either Blondie is the luckiest little I've ever met in my life, or he's got a super duper guardian angel, because everybody that was standing around him was shot, except for him. And to be clear with you, there was like 50 dudes on this video set. Blondie was at the front of this crew, right next to the main rapper. All 10 people in the front were shot. Blondie was the only person laying on the ground that wasn't shot. Now listen to me, I know if you listening to me, you ain't never seen no like this, because I went to war and I ain't never seen no like this. People are coming out of their houses. It's this gigantic commotion. People coming out of their houses looking. Dudes literally on the ground crying, screaming for their mamas, asking for Jesus. And Blondie's little mini gets up and starts to walk around the corner away from the scene. So now I'm driving in that direction, pulling up on him, and I say, yo, Blondie, you all right? He says, yeah, man, them just tried to hit us. I was like, dude, I saw them coming. I did everything I could. I started shooting before they got there so I could let you know that they was coming. He says, word, that's what I heard. I was like, yeah, that was me shooting in the air so y'all will pay attention. Blondie's like, bet, I'm going to arm up. We about to go get these right now. And then he walks off. Now understand, here's what I'm trying to relate to you right now. In a normal world, people try and make sure that other people are fine. There's literally people laying on the ground bleeding to death. And under normal circumstances, you tend to those wounded people. That's what we do in the military. Your brother in arms is down. You try and stop the bleeding. You try and save him. But this ain't no military shit. There's no rules and morals to this. Listen to me. Right there in that moment is when I realized I needed to put some barriers between me and Blondie and a lot of these other people out here. Because in my mind, those were your friends. And you should have been there trying to help your friends. And that's how you walked off? If a shot me, man, there's no chance that you would ever help me. So that day, I decided, even though I'm cool with these dudes that I know them, I'm going to make sure I keep my distance under all circumstances, unless I absolutely have to, because their moral structure was completely different than mine. And there was nothing I could do about that. I can't change that person from what they are to what I want them to be. I just have to accept them for who the hell they are.
Is it in my mind? Listen to the signs. Mission of precision, I give vision to the blind. Busy on my line, cause I'm busy on my grind. It could get freaky like Missy when I rhyme. You piss poor hopeless to get more focused than me. Got a Zoe Kravitz, I'm as cold as Lenny. The bravado, Lovato, you hoes is dimmy. This a wolf in the night, you don't know what's in me. I go wave by wave, I'm stuck in my ways. It's day by day, I'm glitching the matrix. Okay, I'm learning the patience.
Man, I should have known that this conflict was inevitable. When I met Blondie, he was trying to kill Skinny. You know how it is when you know a person, you try and tell yourself and justify in your mind that this person is not the way they seem. That's what I've been doing with both of them, projecting my goodness on them. As it turned out, it was Skinny's crew that tried to kill Blondie. How do I know? Because Skinny himself confronted me about it 3 days later. I'm back over at Popeyes getting lunch when I see Skinny pull up. Ford minivan, baby on board, sign in the back, and he's like, "What up? Haven't seen you around. What you been up to?" I'm like, "Nothing, man, working, trying to survive in these streets. What's up with you?" He says, "Good. Glad to see you safe. So, you remember I told you I owed you a favor, right?" And I'm like, yeah. He says, "Well, consider that debt paid. You warned Blondie the other day that we were coming. My people wanted to hit you right here, right now. But I told them, you saved us, so we gonna save you. But listen, dog, if you ever stick your nose in my business again like that, I don't care where you at. I'm coming to your mother's house. This is life or death out here on these streets for us. You understand? We got to eat and sleep where we. So when I bring out the cleaning supplies and start cleaning up the mess, don't take it upon yourself to bring none of that soft around here. The only way to clean up this mess is with bleach. Wipe it clean, you heard me?" Pause. I'm sitting here debating how to respond to this threat. Understand, Skinny was just that, a little skinny. He wasn't the problem, his crew was. And there was no way that I was going to deal with all of them. So I played weak. You know what, man, you right. I didn't know it was y'all. I just saw a dude I was cool with and some people rolling up. Skinny, I would have did the same thing for you. But listen to me, I understand. I understand exactly where you're coming from. But I need you to understand, Skinny, I'm just trying to survive this just like you. Is there any way the two of y'all can work this out? He looks at me and says, "Yeah, we can work it out if he pays me the money that he owes me." Now, at this point in time, I didn't know anything about the dope business, but that day I learned that Blondie owed Skinny $36,000. You see, Skinny had fronted him some dope, and Blondie went and sold it and said he wasn't paying a dime of the money back. And listen to me, and I would like to sit here and tell you that I was the man and I was able to work out this situation between the two of them. But like I said before, I decided it was time to distance myself from all that. 2 days later, I'm over in Skinny's area working inside a house when shooting starts outside. This time, I'm not emotional at all. I just lay flat on the floor until it's over. Get up and finish doing my work. Now, when I'm finally done with the job, I just so happened to buy the house where I met Skinny. It's yellow tape everywhere, police, murder scene. Remember Big Boy with the funny voice that I first met with Skinny? He's dead, laying there on the sidewalk, blood oozing out of his chest, neck, and arms. And it was right there in that moment that it started to sink into my mind. This place was so violent, it doesn't make any sense to make friends. Because one day they're going to be here, and the next day they're going to be gone. Now, on another level, I started to struggle when I was off work. My wife wanted to go have dinner with this couple, a woman she worked with. We're sitting there at this table. We're sitting there at the table, and they're talking about their first world problems, how their kids are spending too much money on video games, and how the hairstylist made her hair too red. Imagine me I'm sitting there with a glass of wine in my hand, looking at them thinking, this is this you got a problem with? All the things going on in life and video games and hair color is what you stressed out about? So I decided when it was my turn to talk, I would tell them about my problems. Her husband looks at me and says, so how are things at work? It's my understanding that you're working in one of those bad neighborhoods. So I lay into him. Oh, man, work is great. Got a $30,000 a year raise, another $15,000 coming at the end of the year. It's really going awesome. Oh, and today I watched a crackhead give another man head in the alleyway for some drugs. You know, when you're up in those bucket trucks, you get a bird's eye view of everything. After that, I went to a house to work on this lady's cable. Except for they started shooting outside. Bullets came through the window. Poor old black lady fell, trying to get to the ground, busted her mouth wide open. Then after that, I left the house, rode by a murder scene, yellow tape, just like in the movies. Except for there were no reporters, no marchers, no fanfare. Yep, just people trying to live their lives and survive, and other people dying. And then I sarcastically hit him with this. So how was your day, Tim? This look comes across everyone's face at the table, and they realize how trivial the coming out of their mouths actually was. Then, nothing but silence. I took the check, paid, and we went home. This is the point where my wife and I started having issues. Her mind couldn't wrap around the concept of me not being able to leave work at work. But understand, my wife works in an office building writing RFPs. When she pulled into the parking garage and went into the elevator, she knew exactly what to expect every day. As for me, going to work was like a game of Russian roulette. It literally felt like just a matter of time before my luck was going to be up. It's Christmas season and so much has transpired, it's hard to track it all. The drama on the south side, especially during the summer, is bananas. As the cold weather set in, my job got easier in the sense that it was freezing and the thugs moved inside. But there were these occasions where I found myself in a house full of 16-year-old thugs with guns and dope. Things had gotten worse. I think it was the stress from my job, but my wife and I were drifting apart. We had an office Christmas party. Everyone is there with their wives. I walk off for 10 minutes, come back, and my wife is talking to Preston. Now pause. Preston is one of those fake tough guys never served our country, bodybuilder who thinks he's God's gift to the world. And I see him slip his phone number into my wife's hand, just a little piece of paper. Now I'm watching to see what she does. And instead of dropping it, she tucks it into her purse. Imagine me standing there watching this go down. I'm saying to myself, ain't this a... And when I finally approach the two of them, he starts to shoot this saying, man, I borrowed your beautiful wife for a moment. Let me go now and finish mingling. Listen to me when I tell you, everything inside of me wanted to beat his right then and there. Sure, he had muscles, but men like him, they've never been to war, they've never been to combat, they've never seen any blood. The minute I hit him in his throat and started hammer fisting him in his nose, he would lose it. But the truth of the matter is, it wasn't on him. He took a shot at my wife, and she accepted it. So I played it off like nothing happened. Get home, go to sleep, and then the holidays roll into the New Year's and work starts on its normal schedule. Listen to me when I tell you I never showed any emotions about what happened. I just wanted to see how it played out. It's been over a month since the party, and I noticed my wife has got a new password on her phone now. Red flag number one. Also, I noticed Preston has been avoiding me. I come into the break room and he leaves. I go into the bathroom when he's in there and he rushes out. I'm like, okay, so going down. Now, I'm pretty sure you're saying to yourself, why is he sharing all of this with us? Because I want you to understand the mindset I was in when the rest of this stuff went down. The day all of this went down, I'm in an area by Chunk. I pull up, get out the truck, looking for him, and can't find him. So I head on into the convenience store and ask the man behind the counter, I'm like, yo, have you seen Chunk? He was like, he was just here, he'll be back in a few minutes. Listen to me, remember, I have a standing agreement with these men. Before I do anything in their area, I'm talking to them first. So I find myself waiting inside this convenience store for the next 30 minutes until Chunk shows back up. And I tell him, listen, I gotta go 2 blocks up the street and handle some business. I just wanted to make sure you and I are cool. Are we cool? He says, yes, we good to go. Go handle your business. Look, it's 16 degrees outside. I'm up in a bucket truck working on adding a new drop to this house. And I see these dudes coming up the block with hoodies on. They stop over there by Chunk, peep their head in the door. He comes outside and they start exchanging words, going back and forth. I could tell by his body language that the 3 of them ain't agreeing on whatever the hell it is they talking about. Then Chunk points directly at me, points at them, starts waving his hands back and forth. And I can't make out everything that he's saying because they're so far away, but I can definitely read enough of his lips to see whether he's saying, leave that man blank, blank, blank. They continue to argue back and forth for like the next 5 minutes, and then Chunk turns around and goes back inside. And now I notice these 2 dudes are making a beeline directly for me. Now, like I told you, I was about 2.5 blocks away from that store. The 2 of them walk the first block on the same side of the street. But when they get to the corner, one crosses over to the other side of the street, and my spidey senses start to kick in. Remember, I'm way up in the bucket truck, and something is saying to me, this is a jack move. Don't let these catch you up here in this bucket. Get your down and get down right now. So now I'm rushing to get the bucket out of the air, and if you ever seen a bucket truck like mine, the bucket itself rests towards the front of the truck. So as the bucket comes down, I climb up over it and slide down the hood of the truck, landing on the ground. And when I peep around the front left-hand side of the truck, which is the opposite side of the street where the guy had just crossed, he's now veering directly towards me, reaching into his pants. But he's still not close enough for me to see exactly what he's reaching for. Now they're about 60 yards away, and I can clearly see that he has a gun in his hand. So with absolutely no hesitation, I dump on him. 3 shots. Bam, bam, bam. The first one, I know for a fact I missed it. The second one hit him in his stomach because he hunched over. The third one, which was supposed to hit him to the mask, hit him in his shoulder because his body jerks and twists around and then falls to the ground. Now, I'm sliding over on the ground, trying to get to the other side of the truck to peep and see where his partner is. This guy is crouched down behind a car, hiding. Next thing you know, this punk just starts shooting blindly. And when I say shooting blindly, I mean he's just shooting blindly. Reaching a gun around the car, pulling the trigger. He don't have no clue on earth what the hell he's shooting at. So now I'm on the right side of my truck, down on one knee, peeking around the front end, waiting to get a shot on him. He around and stands up. Wham! Wham! One shot for sure hit him in the side of the neck because I saw the blood just gushing and squirting everywhere. Now I noticed Chunk starting to run up the damn street. And I've already fired 5 or 6 of my 9 shots, and I'm like, oh, this was Chunk sending these dudes to get me. So I start popping at him. Bam! 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 Now Chunk is sliding all on the ground, screaming and hollering. Hey, it's me, it's Chunk. Stop shooting, chill, chill. My magazine is now dry. The spare magazine is in the glove compartment of the truck. And so now I'm squatted down trying to figure out how in the hell I'm going to get inside the truck with Chunk running me down. That's when I hear 2 more shots. And peeking over the hood of the truck, I see Chunk standing there in the middle of the street, finishing off the first guy that I shot. And I hear him saying, yo, you need to roll out. You need to roll out. Now imagine me there on the ground, for the next 3 to 4 minutes trying to find each and every one of my shell casings. But nah, I'm not like these dudes. I wasn't gonna run. I got back in my bucket and finished doing my job. Listen to me, 45 minutes later, 2 police roll up. 2, only 2. They hop out, take a look at the scene, call the coroner. An hour later, 2 detectives pull up. They start canvassing the area, asking questions, knocking on doors. When they finally get to me, I tell them, man, I just got here. Didn't see anything. And the craziest thing was, that was enough for the 2 of them. They really didn't give a. They could care less how it went down, why it went down, or who even got shot. As for me, understand it took a lot for me to cage the man inside of me, the dark man inside of me that was in war. But at that point in time, he was back. That cold indifference that I don't give a damn what happens, it all came out of his cage that day. And when I got home from work that day, my wife didn't bother to ask how my day was. It was turning bad. And it was going bad extremely fast. You see, most people think the opposite of love is hate. But no, the opposite of love is indifference. She didn't give a damn what was going on with me. That night I found myself sleeping on a sofa. My demons came back, the demons of war. So I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, asking God to intercede. The next morning, I'm up cooking breakfast. My wife comes in to get coffee, puts her phone down to get coffee from the pot, and a message from Preston comes through. And that was just the confirmation I needed. She had his number saved in her phone. So I figured there's no better time than now. I pick it up, and when she turns around, I say, you actually are having an affair with the guy from my job? Seriously? Seriously? Number 1, you should have seen the look on her face. Number 2, the excuse that she gave was just lame. She says, no, we're not having an affair. We just text each other. Like I told you, the dark side of me had come out. So I told her, here's what you need to do. Text him and tell him you need a place to stay. And I want you to do it right now. You see, my wife knew that man that was talking to her right there in that moment wasn't the same man that was around 2 or 3 months ago. She knew this was the old man. So she texted him. And you know how there's those 3 dots on your phone when someone's typing back? You see those 3 dots again, do you see him going away? Like he's typing and deleting, typing and deleting. It happens again and again and again. And then finally, there's nothing. So I tell her, stupid, pack you getting ready to leave my house right now. Now she's pleaded with me, swearing to me that her and Preston have never met in person, that they've done nothing wrong. But I want her to understand something. The only reason why this man was even entertaining her is because he wanted to hurt me. So I go upstairs, pack a bag for her, take it out to her car, put it in the trunk, gently escort her out of the house, hand her her car keys, and say, go be with him. Then turn around, go back into the house, and finish my coffee. Now pause, because I know you're saying to yourself, man, you're going way overboard with this behavior based on her just texting this guy. But again, she needed to understand the only reason why Preston even approached her in the first place is because he had this hate and disdain for me. I'm everything that he wants to be, but he was too much of a coward to put his body and his life at risk to go be it. But get this, when I get to work that day, guess who's called in sick? Preston. So I go out and do my work. Head over to Blondie section of town, head in the Skinny section. I see Skinny, we nod. I'm not in the mood for none of this particular day, so I keep it pushing. That particular day, I ignored everything that happened. Just didn't care. When I get home, she's sitting outside, tears in her eyes, promising me again that nothing happened. She was just flirting. Felt like she needed attention. So we go inside, sit on the sofa. And so I go on to explain to her that while she was neglecting her husband and acting like a selfish child, I told her everything that happened on my job, every freaking minor detail, things that she had no clue that had went down. And I tell her, so while I'm out here risking my life, trying to keep a roof over our heads, you're acting like a teenager. Then I gave her a pillow and a blanket and told her I'll see her in the morning. Went upstairs and went to bed. 2 days later, I'm at work and Preston comes in. Now, I'm sure he's expecting me to say something, but I didn't say nothing, not a word. I'm not about to lose my job because of him and my stupid wife. Not only would I end up being divorced, but I would be divorced with no job. Not gonna happen. But I did decide I was gonna get Preston. You see, he worked downtown, rich folk area. So instead of me confronting him in the office, I busted my last favor out. Hollered at Blondie. Listen, I know I told y'all that I was gonna stop dealing with these dudes. I find Blondie, I give him the number to Preston's truck. And all I say is, yo, Blondie, this dude is trying to mess with my wife. I done told him to back off, but he not listening. Man, I can't lose my job around trying to fight this dude. Is there anything you can do? Now, of course I knew there was something that could be done. I knew it for a fact. Blondie had told me a long time ago that he had a clique down there called the 44 Boys. And I just told him. And so my final words to Blondie were, you handle the situation how you see fit. Get this, that following Monday I'm at work and people are talking about Preston and how he got jumped. Got his arm broken, leg broken, and shot in the foot. But get this, after all this that I've been going through, this incident with Preston is now the talk of the office. They want to have weekly and daily safety meetings about the violence in the neighborhoods around Chicago. And I'm like, ain't this now? All of a sudden, now they're concerned? Now, honestly, I should have been upset. I should have been offended. I should have been angry. During those meetings of that week, I should have stood up and stumped on the table and cursed them all out. But I didn't give a f. I had made up in my mind. I'm just going to go get my paycheck, deal with whatever I got to deal with, and keep it pushing. At home that evening, my wife is now scared. For sure, she's scared. I can tell by the look in her eyes, which meant to me that she was still talking to Preston. So I gave her the cold shoulder and left her on the sofa. That night, she came to the bedroom with every text message printed out in her hand between her and Preston, showed them to me, and tried to explain herself. She apologized. I accepted it, but it wasn't the same. I was not the same person. You see, I needed her to pull me back from the edge, but she was too busy playing games, and it was too late. I had already started slipping into darkness.
Yeah. Ooh, why always me? Ooh, like I'm Balotelli. Ooh, why always me? Ooh, like I'm Balotelli. Telly. Yeah, why always me? Ooh, like I'm Balotelli. Ooh, why don't you see? Call you Telly, yeah. People act like they know me, but you don't really know me. I've been out here on my own. I've been grinding all alone. Yeah, get up at 9, we can pour out the wine. I got cash on my mind, yeah, I don't really mind.
Now my life seemed like it was spiraling out of control, and it's not, but it just feels that way. At work, I gotta keep looking over my shoulder. At home, I gotta look over my shoulder as well. I wouldn't say I was depressed, because I've seen a lot in my life, but I wasn't right mentally. It's a Monday morning, I'm headed to work. When I get to the office, my boss calls me in, closes the door, and he has human resources in there with him. So I'm sitting there, they start the meeting off. That's when the HR person starts talking in these general terms with this soft monotone voice like she's a psychiatrist. Well, you know, this job can be stressful, and it can take a toll on a family. We just wanted to sit down with everyone and let them know that in times like these, the company is here for you. Now pause. I'm thinking this gotta be done lost to mine. The company is a piece of paper. So this piece of paper is here for me and my family. She goes on. As a part of your medical coverage, you can see a psychiatrist without paying any deductible. So we wanted to open the door of communication to you guys in the field and let you know that we're here for you. We understand. That's when she looks me dead in the eye and says, we understand you've been dealing with a lot on the south side. Would you like to talk about it? Would you like us to set up counseling? How can we help you? I'll admit to you, this chick was smooth. I really got to give her that. But I ain't no fool. My reply was simple. I really didn't know that was a part of our healthcare coverage. But I'm doing great. I love my job. The people in the area are amazing. Of course, there's a few bad apples and there's some bad incidents that happen. But for the most part, everyone there is fantastic. The two of them exchange glances, unspoken words. And my boss steps in, presupposing things, saying, times like this, just leaving out of holidays, they're stressful. Combine that with work stress, it's easy to get overwhelmed and make mistakes. You know that feeling of being overwhelmed. Do you feel it? Nope, not at all. In fact, my wife and I are headed out of town this weekend, flying down south to Florida to get away from the cold. Listen, I'm ahead on my install schedules, and dispatch loves me because I take care of troubles relatively quickly. I don't have any problems at all. Listen, clearly these two wanted me to start saying something, but I gave them absolutely nothing, and then started taking from them, saying, "So how's Preston doing? Is he okay? That area he's in is a pretty good one. What's he making, $115,000 a year, I think? I think I overheard him saying that a few weeks ago. Considering how dangerous it is where I'm working, shit, boss, I don't know. I might need to get a bigger raise." This look comes over his face, and I say, "Listen, I know you gave me an extra $15,000, but people are getting shot. And you would have to agree that the area I work in is 3 times more dangerous than anything Preston has ever touched. And like I've said 1,000 times before, boss, my contribution has to be worth a lot to this company." His look comes over my boss' face like, "You son of a..." And then she decides she's going to deflect. "Well, this meeting is not about your pay. It's about the company letting you know we're here to support you if you have any problems." Then she leaves this long pause, like that was supposed to work on me. And I said, "Well, I realize that. And the best way the company can help itself is by helping me and reward my effort and courage for going into that neighborhood. I'm thinking $35,000, $40,000 more a year. I've been getting contacted by headhunters down in Florida. Do they have hurricanes? Yes. But the cost of living is cheap. It's sunny, no snow, less crime, more house for your money." But that's when my boss realizes that this conversation is not going in the direction that he wants it to, and he cuts everything short, saying, "Listen, we can discuss compensation later. As of right now, we just want to make sure you're okay. And moving forward, if you have any issues around this office at all, feel free to come to us, and don't think you have to take care of anything on your own." I couldn't help but laugh walking out of there. The rest of the day was normal, no drama. But then I had to go home. Understand, my wife is trying to get out of the doghouse, and I'm not ready to let her out. She needs to suffer. The next day, I'm back over there on the south side by Chunk. I pull up, and he must have had people looking for me, because no sooner than I turn off my truck, I see him pulling up in the car. It's freaking freezing outside, snowing. And he's like, let me in the truck to sit with you." So I let him in. And he's like, "Yo, that happened the other day was crazy, man. I tried to tell them boys not to with you. I had seen you in action. But you know who people that was, right?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm not sure who they were." He says, "That was Leslie's cousins. They was pissed because he got dealt with. Word on the street was it was your fault that Amazon flipped out on him. But I was telling them dudes, it ain't had nothing to do with you. Their cousin wasn't, and he brought all that down on himself." Listen to me when I say this to you. I had never been this close to a murderer. Sure, I had taken lives for my country, and I've been around other men who've taken lives for their country. But there was nothing exciting to me about taking another man's life. Chunk, on the other hand, was excited about what happened. He felt like that incident created a bond between the two of us. And it didn't. He goes on to say, "The crazy is, I can't believe you didn't even leave the spot, B. Like you plugged them and didn't go nowhere. That's some white privilege shit right there." Listen to me, I tried to explain to Chunk that what I did was self-defense, and had he not got involved in this situation, I would have waited and spoken to the police. But once he got himself involved, I decided the best thing to do was to say absolutely nothing. Understand, we're both sitting in this truck, and I'm trying my best to relay to Chunk that my mindset and his mindset when it comes to violence is completely different, but it's not sinking in. Because he goes on and said, "Listen, I was talking to Amazon. He came up with an idea of how you can get some paper. You see, you drive around all day long in this truck. How about you let us put a few of them things in the back of the truck? You ain't got to do nothing. All you got to do is move around. Our people come take it out of your truck, leave $500 in there. You never touch a thing. Listen, chunk, that's not my thing. I don't do that. I'm here to do my job, make my money, and go home. That's all I want. He cuts me off saying, listen, Amazon is willing to make this worth your while, man. How about we do it for $1,000? Listen, that's good money. We talking about $1,000 every 4 days, man. You do the math. That's a hell of a lot of money. Pause again. I need you to understand. I find myself in another very, very delicate situation. You see, I don't know Chunk. I know him, but I don't know him. I know who Amazon is, but I don't know him. And oftentimes, when you're dealing with people like this, their egos are fragile, and when you decline them, they get angry. But if I don't decline, there's no telling what this will lead to. So sternly, I say again, Chunk, you good peoples, man, and I really appreciate you, and more than anything, I appreciate what you did. But listen, that's not for me. I don't live that life. I don't want nothing to do with that life. And I want to make that clear with you. No disrespect, but I don't want nothing to do with that life. He sits there, staring at me straight in the eyes for about 10 seconds, then says, look, I understand, but at least let me give you this for taking care of Leslie's. Please let me do something for you, because Leslie was a problem. He pulls out this wad of 20s, puts it in my hand, hops out the truck, and then pulls off. And as he's driving away, I count the money, and it adds up to $2,200. Friday morning rolls around. My boss calls me into his office, and it's like, listen, I need you to level with me. Did you have anything to do with what happened to Preston? Listen, guys, I'm no fool. I'm not answering that question. So I hit him with my own question. Wait, what are you trying to say to me right now? Sitting at the desk, both elbows pressed down on the table, his head falls into his hands, and he says, so you don't know? Oh my God, you don't know. Well, according to Preston, him and your wife had a little tiff going on, and he believes that you sent some thugs to hurt him. Now he's looking up at me, trying to read the emotions on my face, so I fake him. Hands over my open mouth, shoulders hunched forward, body leaning in. I say, wait, are you telling me my wife was cheating on me? I made sure my voice cracked at the end of that sentence. Now his head literally drops and hits the desk. And he says, oh my God, you didn't know. I'm so sorry you had to learn about it this way. But we have to figure out what's going on. The police are getting involved. Now listen, inside I'm steaming, pissed off. I wanted to flip that desk over, take the phone, smash him across his head. Because now I know that my family's business has been a talk of the office. Now, looking back on it, it's probably what I should have done, because it would have made me feel a lot better. But instead, I began to have this outer body experience. And what I mean by that is that it was almost as if some other part of my brain took over. It saw the situation for what it was and knew how to deal with it. I turned my back to him, walking over to the window, staring out over the city, and tears began to roll down my face, saying, so you mean to tell me everyone in this office knew that Preston was sleeping with my wife, except for me? I stand there staring out of the window for a moment, then begin to pace back and forth in front of his desk, saying, listen, I didn't have anything to do with what happened to Preston. I didn't know that my wife was cheating on me with him. And then, for you to call me in here and accuse me of doing him something, even though under the circumstances I have every right to do something to him, I would never do that. But you know what I want you to do for me? I want you to get human resources in here right now. Because now I understand that the two of you knew about this earlier in the week when you met with me. You could have told me about this then, but you waited until now, and I want an explanation as to why that was done. He picks up the phone, calls human resources, and I was standing there waiting for human resources to come. I look at him and saying, how many other men's wives has Preston slept with in this office. Do you know? Because according to you, he singled me out as the culprit, but he's running around sleeping with married women? There's no telling who is pissed off at Preston and how many other married men want to whoop his. Listen, as the word is coming out of my mouth, in walks the human resources woman, and I light into her saying, and you with all this, the company is here to help. So you knew at the beginning of the week that I was being accused by Preston of bringing physical harm to him because he was sleeping with my wife, and that is why you offered to help me get psychiatric counseling, but you wouldn't even tell me that he had been sleeping with my wife? What kind of company is this? Now that I had the two of them in the room together, that's when I really went off. I don't care whose son-in-law he is, whose dick he's sucking, whose uncle, sister's cousin, brother, dog he knows. I want Preston fired. You have no clue how many other employees' wives this man is screwing. Things are completely out of control. You two tried to cover it up, and then it all falls down on me like I'm the guilty party when he's the one running around having inappropriate relationships, not only with married women, but women in this office. Oh yeah, don't act like the two of you don't know about that. So I don't know whose dick Preston is sucking, but Preston needs to go. And I tell you what, if you thought I was angry, if you thought I was upset, if you thought I personally did something to bring bodily harm to that man, let me tell you something. If I come back in this office and I see him, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of doing. And I'm not shooting him in the mother. You understand? That's when a woman from Human Resources chimes in and says, we suspect that Preston has been involved in 3 or more inappropriate relationships in this office. And now, in light of what you just disclosed, we're definitely going to have to do something about this. Looking at my boss, tears are in his eyes as he says, listen, I'm sorry, man. I wish I would have told you. I'm sorry. Then I storm out of the room to the elevator, down to the garage, get to my truck, and I sit there laughing for the next 15 minutes and get back to work. Now get this, 3 days later, Preston is not fired, but he's offered another job, same company, in another state. My boss gives me $30,000 more on my salary. Now, all I needed to do was to get my house in order. So my wife and I schedule counseling, and I get back to work. And that following Thursday morning was a Thursday morning I will never forget. I'm out in the area by Skinny, and notice 6 unmarked SUVs rolling around, public license plates, black on black tinted SUVs, and I'm like, this got to be the ATF or the FBI. Understand, I'm headed to do a job when all of them come zipping past me, making a quick left, and I remember thinking, man, them boys finna jump out on somebody, and I swear to God, whoever they gonna get is in some serious trouble. Never in a million years did I think it was Skinny. But as I turn left behind them, 2 vehicles make a quick right turn, cutting up the alley, and the other 2 literally drive up on Skinny's front yard. They jump out, stack up, and go. Now remember what Skinny told me. He told me I needed to mind my damn business. So I kept on driving. What was happening to him in that moment was none of my business. But by the time I got to the stop sign at the end of that block, you could hear the shooting. And I admit to you, I liked Skinny. He was cool. Part of me really felt bad about that situation. But again, he told me it was none of my damn business. Now get this, later that day, I run into Blondie. His little ass skipping around, jumping up and down, excited, happy. I never seen such a big smile on his face. He's like, yo, you heard the news? Somebody done dropped a dime on that Skinny. Smiling from ear to ear. I say to him, now I wonder who would do something like that. Blondie shrugs his shoulders, smiles, and says, man, I have absolutely no clue who would hate that man so much that they would call the police on him. Then gives me a pound and walks away. Now, as far as I was concerned, Skinny had threatened me, and that was a threat that needed to be removed. Blondie, on the other hand, he and I had a good relationship. But even that relationship was one that would soon be tested. Relationship troubles.
Yeah. I'm an open book for you. Time aside, I could move with pride, I could live a lie, but I rather try. See, it's hard to tell in this universe if using verses to get pretty girls is really worth it, or was it cursing me? Man, I gave heartache and hard dick to basic hoes who seemed to want to help me through my hardships. I parlayed the hard days with mermaids and Sade, but now that's just blasé since you in my passe. A snack temporary, but girl, you my entree. You Badu, I'm Andre. I love when you ranche. I love when you sweet too. These other see-through, these wanna be you, but they don't do what we do. I bleed through this open book.
So like I said, my wife and I started counseling, and it didn't really go as planned. You see, I let her pick the counselor. We end up in front of this feminist moron. It starts off like this. Skinny white girl, about 22 years old, short skirt, boobs partially out. And she says, before we get started, I need to make sure that you guys are actually here to try and work out your issues in this relationship. And with that said, she looks at my wife and says, you start. My wife starts by saying how I've changed, that she wanted me to be the man she married, the funny, loving man who everybody loved, that her friends felt unwelcomed around me. And she goes on to talk about how she's afraid around me, at times because I seem cold and distant. The counselor looks at me and says, do you feel like you're cold and distant? Now, frankly, I was sitting there offended. I didn't come here to talk about my feelings, more about facts. How we get through what happened to the two of us. So I verbalized it saying, I know women like to talk about feelings, but let's start with facts. The reason why she is in this doghouse with me is because she was sending pictures of her to my coworker. And the fact that she didn't start this conversation with that makes it worse and leads me to believe that this whole counseling is not going to work. She, the counselor, tries to cut me off and says, well, how does that make you feel? My response, how do you think it makes me feel? My wife decided to inch her way into having sex with another man. The counselor cuts me off mid-sentence and says, well, sexting is technically not cheating. And I'm like, what? I look at her and say, see, this is not going to work because you're just as thrown off as she is. No, they didn't have intercourse. But she definitely, given the right opportunity, would have slipped and fell all over his dick. She just didn't have the chance. And then the counselor replies by saying, so you have trust issues. Now I'm rolling my eyes. My feet are ready to walk out on their own. My blood pressure is rising. I say, how about we start with you asking her why she felt the need to be a Pornhub model for another man? How about we start there? You see, I'm not the one who's cheating. She is. Again, the counselor cuts me off and says we have to be careful with our words. She did not cheat. She made a mistake. Listen, that's when I click out. Take out my phone and snap a picture of the counselor and say, did I mistakenly just take a picture of your overly exposed breast? I stand up, walk around to the side of her desk, hold the phone directly over her breast and take another picture and say, was that a mistake as well? What the f are we talking about here right now? She didn't make a mistake. She made a decision. And if we can't start with truth, then I don't know if this relationship is going to be moving forward. Now her eyes are big. My wife's eyes are damn near popping out of her head. And I said, listen, we got two choices here right now. We can have a real conversation about how to repair this relationship. Or I can leave and you two can sit here and talk about unicorns and lollipops. That's up to y'all. I think I got my point across. Because she looks at my wife and says, well, why did you do it? What made you take those actions? My wife responds by saying she felt alone and like she needed attention. Well, why didn't you communicate that to your husband? That's when my wife shrugs her shoulders and says, I don't know. Well, do you believe you were being selfish? Yes. I cut them off and say, listen, I can get over the pictures. What I cannot accept is my wife not taking responsibility for her actions. That right there doesn't work for me at all. Again, the counselor cuts me off saying, listen, she's here with you right now discussing the problem. You're going to have to work on letting some things go. And the two of you need to agree that you're going to get past this. She looks directly in my eyes, points to me, and says, you are going to have to give a little in this equation. Here's what I want y'all to do. I want y'all to take a trip out of town. I don't care where you go, Miami, New York, anywhere. Get away from the city and reconnect. Can we at least agree on you guys doing that before you make any drastic decisions? So my wife and I agree, and a week later, the two of us are headed to San Diego. Well, La Jolla, California, boutique hotel right on the beach. Things are going well. We're getting along, having fun for the first 2 days. Then she wants to have dinner at a fancy restaurant. I had so much cash money stashed away from what they gave me in the streets. It wasn't a problem. We get dressed, hop in an Uber, and when we get there, it's real fine dining. I kind of felt out of place. You know how it is? You go to one of those places that's so fancy you worry about being able to pay for an expensive meal, even though you know you got enough money in your pocket? That's what this place was like. We have a seat, order wine. The conversation is going well. My wife admits that she never had intentions on sleeping with Preston. She just wanted me to pay attention to her. And I explained to her what was going on with me at that point in time was I was stressed from dealing with all that at my job. The appetizers come, crab cocktails, and now we're laughing, ordering another bottle of wine. When the waiter comes over and says, sir, your meal has been comped. It's on the house. The two of us look at each other like, what? Sir, one of the partners in the restaurant has decided to comp your meal. Might I suggest some of the finer things on our menu since it's all on the house? My wife looks at me, then looks at the waiter and says, excuse me, who is the owner of this restaurant that so graciously decided to give us a free meal? He points to a booth at the back of the restaurant, and I can see this light-skinned black guy sitting there. He smiles, nods his head, and I'm like, babe, I'll be right back. Now understand, emotionally, I'm grateful, but I'm absolutely sure that this person has mistaken me for someone else. As I approach the table, I'm thinking, man, this dude looks familiar. And when I get 5 feet away, I realize it's Amazon. There's no tattoos on his face, but I'm certain it's him. He's sitting with this woman who looks like Angelina Jolie. Absolutely beautiful. Only difference is she has bigger boobs, and he says, funny running into you here. Listen, I'm standing there, my mouth dropped open, and he says, I know, I don't look the same. It's makeup. My woman's idea. She says that the tattoos scare people, huh, babe? This beautiful woman looks at me and smiles. And I'm just speechless. He goes on to say, why don't you and your wife come over and join us? We could use some company. My immediate response was no. Listen, we're here working on something as a couple, and I just really need to spend some time with her alone. Just then, my wife walks up behind me and says, sir, thank you so much. We really appreciate your generous gesture. However, where do you know my husband from? And he says, we kinda, sorta, maybe work in the same area. I just invited your husband to join me and my woman, but he's being a little standoffish. I follow up by saying, babe, this is Amazon, the guy I told you about. Her eyes get huge, and she takes a step back, hiding her body behind me. He says, I see your husband has told you the worst about me. But trust me, I'm a civil man. I'm just in an uncivilized line of work. Guys, I insist that you join us. Now my mind is racing. How do I deal with this? Do I tell this man no and risk getting on his bad side? Or do I say yes and risk saying something that will piss him off either way? I decide that it's best that we have a seat. And what happens next is one of the most entertaining nights of my life. We laughed, talked about sports, movies, politics. There was no subject that went untouched. He started telling me stories about when he met Dave Chappelle backstage at one of his concerts. Dave asked him for some weed, and instead of giving him a small bag, he gave him an entire duffel bag. That's when Dave Chappelle, the Dave Chappelle, went on stage and started telling jokes about him. Dave Chappelle goes on stage and says, I just wanted a little weed before the show. You know, something to take the nerves off. Knock out the jitters. I met a backstage named Amazon. Yeah, this name is Amazon. Understand, I'm looking to roll me a joint, brings me a duffel bag of weed. I look in the bag, look at him, look in the bag, look at him, and say, nigga, this is enough to get my black for distribution. How much is this weed gonna cost me? And the nigga Amazon tells me it's free. Oh, free? You ain't gay, is you? 'Cause I'm not giving you my for no weed, man. You can keep that nigga. And he sounded just like Dave Chappelle. My wife and I are crying, laughing. We get drunk as a skunk, full as a tick. He pays the bill. When it's time for us to go our separate ways, he tells my wife, listen, your husband is a good man, and you're lucky to have a man like him. If you're having problems, just polish the knob, baby, and make it right. His lady chimes in saying, yeah, nothing like a little sloppy head to make problems go away. We leave, get back to the hotel, and I'll be damned. My wife went crazy. We wake up the next morning, hungover, laughing, get some breakfast, chill the next few days. By the time we get back to Chi-Town, things have improved dramatically. The next day I'm scheduled to go to work. My wife is up early. When I get to the kitchen, she has a gift wrapped for me on the counter. She says, I ordered this over 2 weeks ago, and I know it's crazy, but you probably should wear it. Also, I'm looking for a job in Florida. I think we should move. Your job is way too dangerous, and I don't want to lose you. Opening the box, it's a bulletproof vest. And truly, it was the perfect gift for what I was dealing with. We kissed, and I headed back to work. When I got to the office, everyone had this strange look on their face, like they had seen a ghost. I noted it, but kept moving. On the streets, it felt weird in Skinny's area without him. Understand, I knew what to expect when he was around. And of course, I had 3 installs in that area in one day. But it was quiet. That afternoon, I went over by Blondie, and he was absolutely nowhere to be found. Truthfully, I felt relieved. Things seemed to be looking up. But then came hump day. My boss catches me before I get out of the office and is like, today, you're doing some training. I need you to train Preston's replacement. Son of a bitch, behind him is this dude that literally looks like Napoleon Dynamite. Big glasses on, looked like he could see into the future. Stupid hair, he's like 6'6", skinny, not a working muscle in his body. My boss has this frown on his face and he says, you're the top dog, you're making all the money, so now you're going to do all the training. Think of it as adding value to the company. And if that wasn't enough, my first install of the day was over there by Blondie. I'm driving, hoping and praying that his crew is chilling, that they went out late last night, had too much to drink, and are sleeping in. But nope, hell no. They were outside, all 30 of them in the middle of the street, filming another rap video. Napoleon is scared because this house is on the same block where they're shooting the video, except for it's 6 houses down on the other side of the crowd. And that wasn't all. The street that they decided to do this video on was a dead-end street. And we literally have to drive through the video shoot to get to the house. So I pull up, stop, and wait for them to cut in the filming. Napoleon looks over at me and says, why are we just sitting here? And I tried to explain to this man that we're showing them the proper respect. We got all the time in the world. We're going to let them do what they're doing. When they take a break, we'll pull up and drive through. But this idiot, this fool, this buffoon reaches over and blows the horn. I'm like, hell no. Have you lost your freaking mind? The music stops. All of them look in our direction, and they start to move towards the truck. 30 dudes all coming in our direction. Now, Napoleon Dynamite is scared. So I jump out of the truck and say, what's up, fellas? My bad, I hit the horn by mistake. When they realize it's me, 2/3 of them turn around and go the other way, but Blondie keeps walking. All the while, looking at Napoleon through the windshield, and he says, what's up, homie? Gives me a pound. Who's this cat you got with you? I'm like, man, he's a new guy, a nobody, I'm training him. Now picture the scene. Some of them are maneuvering to the passenger side of the vehicle. Inside, Napoleon is scrambling to lock the doors. But one of them says, yo, your man's over here. He ain't gonna make it out here on these streets as a cable guy. Look, you need to get him back into the office before he does something stupid and get the 2 of y'all hurt. I get real close to Blondie. We hold a little conversation. I'm asking him how he doing, how things going. And I said, listen, man, I need to go ahead and get up the block and get this work done. You mind if I drive through right now? He said, sure, go ahead. So we drive to the house, and before we get out of the vehicle, I tell him, listen, when you're in a black neighborhood, respect goes a long, long way. Treat people like you want to be treated, and you can survive and make allies. But if you come around here acting stupid, you might mess around and get a bullet in your head. It's important that you listen to me. Understand, Mr. Know-It-All? He's scared out of his mind right now, and he's all ears. We get out, I raise the bucket to inspect the drop to the house, and sure enough, the wires are old and shredded. Literally the perfect first job for Napoleon. He climbs up and gets to work, and I'm talking him through it from the ground. Then we head inside to the house and do the troubleshooting. Understand, this had to be one of the worst houses I'd ever been in. It was raised, holes in the floor, stuff hoarded everywhere. And what I found real hard to understand was, this house had a 50-inch flat screen TV and cable, but they was living with holes in the floors. I'm over at the box, checking it out. Napoleon Dynamite is standing right there at the door, halfway in, halfway out, acting like he's a germaphobe, when I hear a single gunshot. Immediately, I think to myself, okay, they down there doing a video shoot, and there was an accidental discharge. But then, you hear sirens and gunfire. Napoleon turns his stupid around and runs out of the house. I'm standing there thinking, Lord Jesus, this man is an idiot. So imagine me now, I'm climbing over boxes, knocking over magazines, and I step on a box of adult diapers. My foot goes into the box, I'm stumbling, trying to kick this box off my foot, and when I get to the door, this fool is literally running to the end of a dead-end street. Cats is out there running in all directions, shooting at the police. I'm yelling at him to get down, get down. And it looks to me like this man has never run before in his life, because he ran with his back straight, wrists bent, flopping all over the place, and his knees were going way too high, which made him damn near run in place. I'm standing there behind cover thinking to myself, if this dummy gets shot on his first day of field training, ain't no telling what the hell is going to happen. So now I'm racing out of the door after him, still trying to kick off the box of adult diapers. After the first few steps, it falls off. I run him down, grab him, pulling him to the right, and we hide in between two houses. For the next 3 to 5 minutes, there is a shootout. A couple of dudes come running past us, jumping the fence, going into the next street over. And then it goes quiet. When I look at him, there are tears in his eyes, and he done pissed his pants. And I'm like, okay, this is enough. I'm calling it a day. So now, we're peeking around the corner, making sure it's safe to go to the truck. And I realized that in all that shooting, nobody got hit. Not a police officer, nor a criminal. Now, as we're walking back to the house, I notice the cover is on my bucket. But I think nothing of it. Head inside, tell the homeowner, listen, I'm done for the day, your cable is working, you just need to do a hard reset on your box, you're good to go. I explained to them how to do that hard reset, and we're out of the door. Now, we're in a truck, start to pull off, and a cop stop us. Take us out of the truck, sit us down on the curb, and I'm playing it cool, telling the officer, listen, I was right up the street doing an install. I haven't seen anything, I just want to go home. They asked if we had weapons, and I said, yes, I have a weapon in my truck. Napoleon is sitting there on the curb, smelling like piss. The police are kind of being digbags, and I understand it, because they just been shot at. It takes another 30 minutes before they let us go. We drive to the end of the block, make a left, and when we're halfway down the block, I hear this screaming, pull over, bro. Understand, I'm thinking my mind is playing tricks on me, till Napoleon says, you hear that, right? So I pull over a few blocks later, and Blondie emerges from the covered bucket, and I'm like, Lord Jesus, what are you doing? Listen to me, I've never seen Blondie in such a panic. He says, listen, can't be around here, man, I need your help. I need you to take me up the street, it's about 7 miles to my other spot. Understand, I'm standing there with Napoleon. Another dilemma is on my hands. Leave Blondie here, and God knows how that will play out. But also, it was against company policy to allow any non-employees in the vehicle. Now, normally, I wouldn't think twice about giving Blondie a ride anywhere. But normally, I don't have no witnesses with me either. Nonetheless, I decide it's best to give Blondie a ride. Back inside the truck, I tell Napoleon, look, dude, I tell him, look, dude, you cannot talk about this. This is some streets. The company policies don't cover this type of stuff. Sometimes those company policies have to go out of the window. He just looks at me, says nothing. 30 minutes later, we're back at the office, and my gut is telling me, this dude is going to crack. This dude is going to crack. Sure enough, my boss notices we're back in the office early, and my boss says, well, what kind of crazy incident do you have to report to me today? Because you're back in this office way too early. Revelations.
Watch me, caught up in the light, I'm falling, tripping to the night, I'm all in, drifting in your tide, we're flawless. I can't help but think about it all night. Really take a dozen months to ride. This feeling is swift like a river running to you. It made me go.
And this is how the conversation goes. Sir, nothing abnormal for the neighborhood. It was a shootout between a bunch of criminals and the police. So my boss goes through his normal line of questions with me. Anyone get hit or die? I'm like, no. Do y'all two have to deal with the cops as witnesses or anything like that? Come on, lay it on me. I said, no, sir, it's all good. Did you finish the job? Yeah, I finished the job. Okay, well, fill out the report and get back to me. Listen to me. I'm standing up, walking out of the room. Napoleon, who has been sitting there silently the entire time, breaks and says, I have piss all over my pants. I was caught in the crossfire of cops and robbers, then harassed by the cops, and he says this in the whitest way possible. I discovered that one of his homies is in a bucket hiding in the back of the truck from the police. And then he makes us an accessory after the fact by giving him a ride to his other dope house, where there are 15 thugs hanging outside with guns. It's not okay. Not by a long shot. Understand, my body is halfway out of my boss's door, and I'm like, holy, I know he just didn't tell all of the business. Sit down, my boss says. Do you want to fill me in on everything that he's just said? So I tell my boss everything, starting off with the fact that had Napoleon been all alone, he would have gotten murdered within the first hour because he blew the horn at a rap video shoot. Then I tell him the only reason he didn't get murdered is because I knew the guys and their boss. Looking at Napoleon, I said, since you want to tell all the business, bro, let's explain how you got piss all over your pants. So I tell my boss about him running outside while they're shooting and how I had to go outside and get him. My boss sits up in his chair with this confused look on his face and says, wait, you went outside when you knew they were shooting? Then I explained to him that I had to grab him, pull him on the side of a house out of the line of fire while he peed his pants. After that, I had to talk down the angry police. And I tell him, Yes, boss, one of the gang members who's a don on the street hid in a bucket truck. I had no choice but to take him where he needed to go. Why? Because I need him. I need him to access that area of town and do my job with no problems. Imagine the scene. Now, we're both sitting in front of my boss's desk. He's leaned back in his chair. He looks at me and says, well, me. I'm going to need you to put all that in the report. But leave the part about criminal hitchhiker out of the report, please. I go on to spend the rest of that day writing that report, catching up on paperwork. At 5 p.m., my boss forwards me an email. It's Napoleon's report that he's already submitted, CCing Human Resources on that email. Clicking the PDF and reading it, this dirty son of a left the part about Blondie in his report. So now I'm back in my boss's office. He's on the phone with Human Resources saying, listen, it happens and disciplinary actions are at my discretion. I choose to take no action considering the circumstances. Then he slams the phone down, hanging up. Looking at me, my boss says, I know there are things that happen out there on those streets that are on a need-to-know basis. But I need you to understand something. I need to know about all the things that happen when it has the potential to cost this company money. Listen to me, I want you to be careful. There's a lot going on in this company right now. Most of those things you don't need to know. But this time, I gotta tell you something. Now get this. He goes on to tell me that it was not his idea to put Napoleon in the field. He says he wouldn't have never even hired that stiff-necked, big glasses wearing freak. He was dumped in his lap, the son of a friend who knows the regional vice president. Then he goes on to tell me that Human Resources has looked at my salary and they think they can get 2 people for the salary that they're paying me. Sitting back in his chair, hands up in the air, he says, I tried to tell them only you can go into that area. And somehow, that right there was picked. Now, son, don't underestimate him. He looks stupid as hell, but someone had to coach him into sending that email to HR, because I sure enough didn't. The words that come out of my boss's mouth, combined with the stress on his face, painted a clear picture for me as to what was going on behind the scenes. He said, listen to me. If this guy keeps on acting up like this, we're going to have to find a way to get rid of him for both of our sakes. Because if he keeps maneuvering like this, bypassing and going around me, it's going to be a major problem. My response? Simple. Boss, I have just the person for him to meet. Trust me, when I'm through with him, he'll be scared out of his mind. But listen to me, things did not go the way either of us thought. Because Napoleon was weird, yes, but he had one hell of a tactical mind helping him. Because 3 days later, my boss gets an email request from him asking to have another employee do the training. In that email, he cites the violence on the South Side and my handling of the situation with Blondie. Then carbon copies me, my boss, and my boss's boss. Now, my direct boss is pissed. So pissed that he wants to meet me in the parking garage. The man is literally texting me while I'm on the toilet from his personal phone, and I'm saying to myself, now I can't even take it in peace on this job. When I get downstairs, he's sitting in the passenger seat of my truck with a hard hat on and gloves, saying, I'm going into the field with you today. Listen, I'm confused at what the hell is going on. I say, listen, boss, that's a terrible idea. That I deal with is not for you. That's when he cuts me off and says, look, I'm going to do a performance evaluation and have it on record before one is requested. This is starting to turn into a paper trail game. So I'm covering both of our. Now let's go. When we get into the area, dispatch kicks out 4 jobs, 2 in Amazon's area, 1 in Skinny's area, and another in a section of the South Side I had never been. So I tell my boss, listen, we got 3 good locations and a possible show. I take out my phone and show him the territory map that I had created with the names of people that I knew and start to break it all down for him. I tell him, see, over here, this is Skinny's area. It used to be real wild, but now it's quiet because he was raided by the ATF or the FBI about a month or 2 ago. Not sure who did it. I'm still not sure what agency it was, so that job is going to be easy. I show him down here it's Amazon's territory and it's forever expanding. He and I had dinner during my vacation, so we're good in this area. If we stump our toe the wrong way, they will help. Now, this area over here, word on the streets is that it's ran by an old head gangster named Punch. I heard about him, but never ran into him. So I explained to him my philosophy that I like to tackle the most difficult parts of the job early in the morning because most of the thugs are asleep. So we need to head over to Punch's area. That's when my boss sits back, smiles at me, and says, "Clearly, you know what you're doing. Let's go." When we get into the area, it's incredibly, supremely ghetto. We're talking about babies in Pampers staring at you out of the window, then coming, opening the front door, and walking outside on their own. And the dope house on this block was so easy to spot because these fools literally had a line outside of the door. My boss looks around at the situation that we're riding through and says, "You know, these people didn't always live like this. When I was a kid, black folks had real families, fathers with their children, jobs in factories. They had land and farms. My parents would buy food from a black family. Now look at this mess." And you know what? They started moving into cities. Women got on welfare. That kept the men out of houses. And with no men around, the boys became emotional and violent. Tears literally began to well up in my boss's eyes. And you want to know what the worst part is? It'll never change. Because this government sees them not as people, but as votes, as robots, that as long as they're kept in this condition, they can count on them to vote the way they want to. So truthfully, black people are still slaves. And the few who get free, like the ones I know, are shunned. Listen to me, when I'm sitting there in complete and utter shock, I never knew my boss had this type of understanding of the black community. But that day, I learned. He came up working in Watts, California. Yeah, Watts. Rodney King getting beat down by the police. Watts riots, California. My boss goes on to tell me that the reason why he liked me was because I was a lot like him. He said, "You're a man that sees people for what they are and deal with the situations the right way. You don't see a person as you want them to be, but you see them as they are." When we get to the house where we're supposed to do the install, the front yard is gated with a gigantic pit bull. This massive dog is barking. There's a weight bench on the front lawn, and my boss says, "This is a strongman house." Hops out of the truck before me, walks straight up to the gate. This pit bull is snarling and barking. He gets down on all fours and starts talking to the dog. "Good guard, dog. Good dog." Presses his hand against the fence, and I'll be damned, this dog starts licking his hand. "Good boy. Good boy." Then this man pulls a piece of beef jerky from his shirt pocket, gives it to the dog, and as he's doing that, this muscle-bound comes out of the front door and says, "Hey, what are you feeding my dog?" Listen to me when I tell you, this man was Incredible Hulk big. My boss completely ignores his question, saying, "Oh my God, those trap muscles on you are huge, bro." Listen to me. It was like in that moment, that gigantic, huge chunk of muscular man, his mind melted in the putty. Because the next thing my boss says is, "You know that behind the back row is the only way to get the top of that muscle like that. You ain't no weightlifter. You a bodybuilder. Now that is science. You're a scientist." Man, next thing you know, him and this guy are standing over the weight bench talking. The dog is sniffing and licking his hands. I'm standing there outside the gate like, what the just happened? Turns out this homeowner was super freaking cool. His nickname was Blocker Blocker, an old head. He goes on to tell us that he tries his best to keep these youngsters on the block in check. That he started off in the same way, living that life. Did prison time. Came back to the community to try and help out. And he was one of the only community activists that actually lived in the hood. Listen to me, we're inside, talking, fixing his problem, when he says, "Look, y'all gotta be careful out here. Lots of these kids have no direction. They some real thugs." On my block, I keep them in check. But a few blocks over, it's a whole nother world. That area over there is controlled by a dude named Punch. And he stays on that. They around there shooting at the park, doing stupid stuff, getting innocent people hurt. Listen to me, I didn't know this side of my boss. He lifts his shirt showing a concealed revolver, saying, "Oh, trust me, big man, I didn't leave home without my problem solved. Let's just hope that for the next 20 minutes, we can all have some peace," you know what I mean? Again, I didn't know my boss was this personable. By the time we're leaving that man's house, he's made both of us smoothies and is thanking us as he walks us out of the door to our truck. Back in the truck, I'm shocked. My boss, the real deal. Listen to me, on our way over to Amazon's territory, he says, listen to me, on our way over to Amazon's territory, he looks at me and says, "What do you think is the best way to get rid of him?" Referring to the Napoleon Dynamite lookalike. I say, listen, let him continue doing the training with whoever he's doing the training with. But as soon as he's done, I just need you to get him over here by me for a week or two. And I'm going to have someone scare the living hell out of him. As my boss sits there inquiring about who, I explain to him that that's on a need-to-know basis, and it's best if he didn't know exactly who was going to do what. Listen to me, when we get to Amazon's area, as soon as I'm in the bucket, Chunk pulls up. And he's like, "Yo, my dude, what's happening?" I'm like, "Nothing, everything good." He looks at me, looks at my boss, and says, "Yo, I need to holler at you when you alone. Next time you come down here, make sure you see me." Then he pulls off. I go on to tell my boss about Chunk, Amazon, the shooting, everything that happened in this area. He looks at me with this angry look on his face saying, "You didn't tell me all this was going on." And I remind him again that some things are on a need-to-know basis. And that was some stuff that he didn't need to know. But listen to me. Overall, that was one of my best days I've ever had on that job. The two of us worked till 8 p.m., telling stories, laughing, even went back over by Blocker to return his cups from the smoothies. When we finally get back in the garage, it's 8:30. He says, "You know that thing you were talking to me about Florida and those headhunters?" I'm like, yeah. He says, "Well, you know, they're always looking for new people." Then turns and walks back into the building. I go back to the truck, gather my stuff, head upstairs for a minute, and I see him in his office on the computer smiling. Listen, things around that office go quiet for the next few months. My home life is back in order, and the streets, they're the streets. They ain't changing too much. However, during that time period, something happened unbeknownst to me. Amazon expanded his territory so far that he was way over there where Skinny used to be. Because I'm over there in Skinny's old territory, working. When Chunk pulls up saying, "White boy, ain't you supposed to check in when you in one of my areas?" Turning, looking over my shoulder, he's there, arm leaning out the window, this big old smile on his face. I'm like, "Listen, you a long way from home, ain't you?" He's like, "Nah, this is home now, my man. That's what I was trying to tell you the last time I saw you, but you had that cat with you." Imagine the scene. I'm standing there leaning on his car. He's hanging out of the window. We're talking, and I notice Blondie and his crew coming around the side of one of the houses. And I whisper, "Yo, Chunk, you might need to roll out. This little dude right here is trouble." Chunk looks up at me and says, "Who, these little?" I'm like, "Yeah, they some little gorillas for real, man. You might want to roll out." But nope. Chunk opens the door, climbs out of the car, and says, "Let's see." Now I'm like, oh. I'm patting on my chest, making sure I got my vest on. I knew I had it on, but I'm panicking because I know both these dudes is shooters. Blondie walks up to me and says, "Yo, cable guy, who's your friend?" You know, talking through his teeth. And before I can say a word, Chunk says, "I'm Chunk, little nigga. Who is you?" I'm standing there thinking to myself, holy, this is getting off to a bad start, and it's going left fast. So now I'm trying to interject. I'm like, "Yo, Blondie, this is my man Chunk. We met further down south by the church. Chunk, this my man Blondie. Remember I told you about the dude at my job that was trying to screw my wife? Well, this is Blondie that took care of that." Chunk starts to laugh and says, "Oh, okay. So this the little dude that took care of that for you. Now I'm thinking I done smoothed everything over, right? But nope, that's when Blondie says, y'all church boys been taking over everything around here. But what I don't understand is how come keep rolling over to y'all. Y'all not coming up here and taking mine. I'll die for mine. Then out comes the guns. Listen to me, I've explained to you over and over, when you're in the hood, these type of situations tend to escalate quickly. But this one was escalating way more quicker than I ever thought it should. And I was way too close for comfort. But listen to me, it was in that moment when I understood why Chunk was Amazon's man on the street. Because he starts laughing. I mean, hunched over at the waist laughing, saying, little nigga, anyone can be touched. It's not about you touching me. It's about what happens after you touch me. Now he's standing straight up, looking all of them in the eyes and says, your mama, your cousins, your sisters, your uncles, you with me, your dogs and your cousins' dogs, all gonna die. Listen to me, that's when Chunk takes off his hat, showing the missing part of his head, and he says, besides, look, I'm tired of looking like this anyway. So you could do what you gonna do, little man, or I can make you a proposition. All the work you can handle. Understand, little nigga, we in 3 states. We don't need to eat away at your pockets. We just need a steady stream. Y'all boys out here trying to make waterfalls. Waterfalls? Waterfalls? Little nigga, waterfalls is noisy. We want more of a little babbling brook. Money slowly flowing in. Clean it and then put it back to work. Listen to me. If y'all wouldn't get with us, you'll own restaurants, bars, strip malls, beach houses. Or you can kill me now and your whole family, all your crew, your friends. They're all going to end up in an acid bath, baby. It's your choice. Now pause. Since I've been out here in these streets on the south side, I've heard some gangster talk. But this was the most gangster I've ever heard somebody say. Blondie looks at me, looks at Chunk, and says, cable guy, this telling the truth? I tell him, Blondie, listen, all I can tell you is what I've experienced. I'm on vacation with my wife in La Jolla, California, and I run into his boss. His boss owned the restaurant that we were having dinner in. I tell him, that's real, Blondie, I'm not lying to you. Listen to me, I've never been that nervous in my life. But the guns get put away, and Blondie says, so how do we start? And Chunk's response was super simple. We start by you taking a ride with me. Next thing you know, the two of them are pulling off into the sunset, and I'm left standing there thinking to myself, Jesus, that could have went so far left, it would have been insane. After that, I take the next 3 days off for me and my wife to chill. Turn on the news, and there's this crazy shootout in that area. I'm literally standing there staring at the TV when my wife walks over and turns it off saying, baby, I found a job in Florida and I think we should go. Understand, I remembered her telling me she was looking for a job in Florida, but I didn't realize that she had gotten so far. Listen, I'm caught off guard. She can tell. This look of disappointment comes over her face and I say, hold on, baby. That's awesome. But how do you suppose we handle my employment situation? Babe, I'm not a man that can sit at home and do nothing. You know that will drive me crazy. My wife says, listen, just let me accept the job. I'll push the start date back as far as I can. And in that time period, you can work on finding something down in the area of Florida. Understand, my wife was right about my job being dangerous. And I go and explain to her that my commitment is to us as a couple. So now I'm digging through drawers, looking for business cards, trying to find those headhunters. I find one, and a few days later, I give him a call. This guy goes on to tell me that it's funny, I'm the second guy from Chi-Town in the cable industry that's called him looking for a job down south, and goes on to say, give him about a week or so, he'll make some calls and figure out the lay of the land. But understand, now I'm feeling awful. I'm literally job hunting. My boss has been breaking his neck trying to help me, and part of me likes my job. As chaotic and dangerous as it is, it's kind of fun. If I move down to Florida, it's probably nothing but doing installs for fake boob, thirsty housewives. So I find myself perplexed as I'm heading into work. And when I get down to my truck, my boss is inside the truck sitting there waiting for me. And he says, listen, tomorrow our little friend is going to be in your area in a truck alone. And I haven't been keeping you in the loop on everything, but it turns out they're not training him to replace you, but they're training him to replace me. You see, he needs to have 1 year's worth of street field experience in order to qualify for this job. I'm working on things on my end, but I need a little help on your end. Under the circumstances, I'm like, sure, boss, no problem. I'll do what needs to be done. Now, normally when I start my day, I get my assignments from dispatch and just ignore the rest of the talk that goes on. But now I'm paying attention to every word from dispatch. And Napoleon gets assigned a job back over in the area by Blocker. Listen to me. There was nothing I could make happen over there. Blocker was a cool dude. He wasn't about none of that drama. So I found myself waiting for the perfect opportunity. Damn it, I'm on my own.
Go dummy, go beast on them. I go beast. Go deep, I OD on them. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat on them. Put that 500 degrees on them. 500 degrees. Go dummy, go beast on them. I go beast. Go deep, I OD on them. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat on them. Put that 500 degrees on them. 500 degrees. Countdown, levitate. Going up, elevate. Watch me demonstrate.
Listen to me, there was nothing I can do over there by Blocker. And over the next few days, I swear, Napoleon just skirted all around the danger zone, never getting too close to where my people actually were. So I decided to send trouble his way. Literally. I headed to Blondie's area, tracked him down, who, by the way, at this point in time, had been shot in the leg. A bullet ricocheted off the ground, hitting him during that gunfight that was on the news. Turned out, that was him and Chunk cleaning out the skinny loyalists in the area and running them off. Now, normally, Blondie would have did the dirty work for me, but my man was immobile, and it was at this point that he introduces me to a dude named Trouble. He goes on to tell Trouble that I'm his guy, saved his life, and whatever I needed, Trouble should do. So now, I'm sitting in my truck explaining the situation to Trouble, and the dude seems slow, like retard slow. Maybe it was the blank stare on his face or the way his lips kind of twisted on the side, but turns out that Trouble was a hood genius. And I quickly understand why everybody called him Trouble, because he boiled my situation down like this. So you got old boy, this weirdo with the red hair, trying to get your boss's spot. Essentially, he trying to take your connect, but you can't murk him and kill him because he got a bigger connect. Is that what's going on with you? So you need to either run him or you need to expose him. Bet, I tell you what, I say we do both. I got you. Only problem is how I'm supposed to know where he at when he there. That's when I tell Trouble I'll let him know based on dispatch exactly where Napoleon is. He goes on to tell me that's cool, but he don't be outside before 10 a.m. He has to fix his grandma her grits and eggs, but after 10, he's out here in these streets. Then he goes on to explain to me his unique style of texting, a code language that was absolutely genius. You could hold a regular conversation and no one would ever have a clue as to how you were giving instructions to the next person. If the FBI actually had the text message in hand, they would never know what was truly being said. Listen to me. Over the next few weeks, Trouble literally terrorizes Napoleon. kids throwing rocks at his windshield, people reporting him for bad driving. They slashed his tires at 5 o'clock in the evening, and when the sun went down, 10, 15 thugs surrounded him. Back at the office, you could see it was mentally taking a toll on him. One morning, my boss pulls me to the side and whispers in my ear, "You know I'm catching flack behind this little redhead bastard not being able to hold his own in the streets, right? Man, it's not looking good for the home team at all." Get this, that following day, I come to work and my boss has resigned. I'm like, mother, and it's one of them bland resignation emails like, "I would like to thank the company and my team for their years of support. Together, we accomplished a lot. I will miss you all as I move forward to this new phase in my life." Pisses me all the way the off. He could have said something to me, shoot me a text, call me, do something, give me some kind of warning. So now, I'm in the garage blowing up his personal cell phone and he ain't answering it. I'm like, you left me in this all by myself. When I head back upstairs, there's turmoil. Everybody looks confused. Napoleon, it's I in his office. But Lord Jesus, you will never believe the following day who steps off the elevator that morning. Preston Lambert. Yes, you heard me. They hired Preston to replace my boss. This had to be the most crazy, nepotistic I'd ever see go down in any office place. He comes strolling in the door, walking with the same HR lady who made the decision to move him on. And the woman has this look on her face that like, what the look on her face? She makes the gesture with her fingers to her eyes, pointing to me and then pointing to him like, watch out for Preston. Understand, my blood pressure is boiling, having a panic attack, pissed, confused. So I go to the garage, sit in the truck, call my wife at work, and tell her the great news. She literally falls silent on the phone, saying, "Oh my God." Preston is like the gift that just keeps on giving. But listen to me, this is where my wife begins to behave like the woman that I married. She says, "Listen, stay cool. He's going to try and get a rise out of you, and he'll try and do it publicly. But don't bite no matter what he does or no matter what he says. Wait until the two of you are alone, then let him have it, baby. Worst case scenario, honey, is you lose the job. We move to Florida. No big deal. But don't let him get the best of you." I'm sitting in the truck pissed off, and I say, "Yeah, babe, I understand, but I really don't like this." She says, "Honey, understand. Worst case scenario for us is that you lose the job and that we move on. Worst case scenario for him is that you lose your temper and you beat his brains in. So I need you to stay cool and calm, because if it goes in the wrong direction, now I'm going to be bailing you out of jail, baby. And I don't have no money to be bailing you out of jail. Just stay focused, baby. It's going to be all right. I'm sorry. I know a lot of this is my fault, but you can handle this. Remember, he never touched me. Remember that. I'm yours. No matter what he says, he never touched me." Heading back upstairs, I walk in on him holding his first team meeting, and he digs straight into me, trying to embarrass me. "I'm so glad you could take time out of your busy schedule to join us," with this stupid smile on his face. Then he proceeds to talk about my old boss. The old guard, he called himself a stiff and rigid boss. But me, I'm going to play it fast and loose. Around here, we're going to kick it into high gear. Some of you are going to have to work weekends. And I know, you guys want to be home with your beautiful wives and children. But I made a commitment when I took this job. The commitment is to production, efficiency, and outcome. Listen to me, this mother meathead in the first 10 minutes pissed off 80% of his team. And it was right there in that moment that I realized I needed to carry my ass down the floor. Now things begin to fall apart.
dumb, me go beast on them. I go beast. Go deep, I OD on them. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat on them. Put that 500 degrees on them. 500 degrees. Go dumb, me go beast on them. I go beast. Go deep, I OD on them. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat on them. Put that 500 degrees on them. 500 degrees. Countdown, levitate. Going up, elevate. Watch me demonstrate. On time, never late. I grind, celebrate. No pump, fake, hesitate. I've been scoring every day. Champagne Perrier. Since 9-3, been in the box now, stepping up.
So I head back out into the field, texting trouble, but there's no response. Then I call a headhunter, and he says there were 2 job posts in Pensacola, Florida. One of them was taken, and the other one was withdrawn. Sorry to inform you, but I have nothing else at the moment. But if I get anything anywhere in Florida, I'll call you as soon as possible. That feeling hits. You know the feeling when you know it punches me, bing, dead in the chest. For the rest of that week, I'm on pins and needles, waiting on Preston to start some. Out there on the job, I bump into Chuck, and he can tell something is wrong with me. He starts to inquire, and I tell him. But from Chunk's street perspective, the situation was really, really simple. He says, listen, you know it's going to be some either way it go. So why you going to sit around here and be terrified, man? Man, that. Find an excuse to go in there, file a report, do whatever you got to do, but go check his temperature and see where his head is. Right now, you see, you all up in your head making up, dog. For all you know, your boss got a gay bodybuilding lover who's cheating on him. You don't know what's going on. But I tell you what's dangerous. What's dangerous is you living inside of your head. You need to find out what's happening, and you need to find out what's happening right now. Understand, Chunk is spazzing out in the middle of the street. He says, talk this through with me. Tell me what's got to happen for you to be forced to hold a conversation with him. I said, well, you know, any incident has to be reported directly to him. Chunk says, well, what the hell is an incident? Define incident for me. I tell him, anything that involves lost or stolen company property is considered an incident. Then he walks around to his car, gets his handgun, and shoots my windshield. Is that an incident? Said Chunk with a smile on his face. Then he shoots again. Oops, looks like you got 2 mother incidents. He continues to spaz out. Man, listen, this tried to your old lady, and he got you shook because he your boss? Dog, come on now, you better than that. The worst this man can do is fire you. And truth be told, you already had him touched out here in these streets. So truthfully, he more scared of you than you are him. He just running around acting tough. You the one being a loup right now. Then Chunk hops into his car, rolls his eyes at me, and speeds off. I call dispatch and tell them that my truck was hit in a drive-by shooting. They call off the rest of my jobs for the day, and I head back into the office to file a report. However, when I get there, Preston is gone. So I write my report, email it to him, and tell him I need a meeting in the morning. Now get this, the following morning, I'm a few minutes late for work. It rarely happens, but it happened. Got caught in traffic. When I get there, his secretary says, Preston is looking for you. And from the minute I walk into the office, I knew this was going to be some. He has a pen and pad out. And he says, you're late. Make sure you put that on your timesheet. In that moment, I'm thinking to myself, it's about to go down. So I spit right back at him. I'll make sure I put it on my timesheet. Also, I'm going to put the extra time that I spent out there in the field. It should balance it off. He goes on to say, so what happened with your truck? One of your thugs turned against you? In my head, I hear my wife's voice saying, don't let it happen publicly. Make sure it's in private. Behind me, his office door is still open. And I say, listen, boss, it's a delicate situation. Do you mind if I close the door? He nods. I close it. And then I say, actually, it was a friend of mine who shot the truck. You know, he was a little worried about me. Didn't like the fact that I was stressed out and aggravated. He felt it was better if you and I talk in private. So I'm here to talk. So you're admitting right now that you purposely damaged company property? I'm like, nah, that's not what I said. I didn't shoot the truck. Somebody else shot the truck. But he did it in order for me and you to have an opportunity to talk in private. Now pause, ladies and gentlemen. Because any logical man would understand right now in this moment the threat that's posed to him. But Preston didn't get it. he was emotional. And I realized right then and there, sitting in front of him, how weak he was. Because he starts to squirm in his chair, reaches for his cell phone, and I realize that he's about to record the conversation. So I said, listen, you tried to f my wife, and I tried to get you fired. He cuts me off saying, no, you got me shot in the foot. I said, nah, I didn't have nothing to do with that. You was in the wrong place at the wrong time, my man. I would never do anything like that to you. They knew my name. I know you had something to do with it, but I just can't prove it. Then I get reassigned to a whole nother state because of you. So guess what? I'm the boss now. You won't have this job for long if I can help it. Again, I'm sitting there looking at him, realizing he's emotional because he's scared. I simply say, look, we should get past the past. That's what I would like to do. I want to work with you moving forward. Is there any kind of way we can move past our past? Just stares at me with this cold look in his eyes. And I said, well, you're the boss. I can only play by your rules. He looks me dead in the eyes and says, correct. And these are my fucking rules. You're getting written up for the damages to the truck. I said, you sure you want to go this route? Makes no sense considering. And then I lift my leg up, pointing to my foot. And he explodes again. Are you threatening me? Are you in here right now threatening your boss? Remaining calm, I say, no, but you're scaring the hell out of me. Veins popping all out of the side of your neck. Man, you're a huge guy. I'm little. Please calm down. I don't feel comfortable with you being angry like this. Understand, I know by now that he's hit the record button, but what he never knew was I was recording the whole time as well. He excuses me. I get up, leave, go back to my desk, and I'm sitting there waiting because I already know that he's going to human resources. No doubt about it. Sure enough, 2 hours later, I get a call from HR to go down to the same lady's office who's been involved in this from the beginning. And the first words that come out of her mouth are, you gotta be careful. Preston said that you're threatening him and he recorded your conversation. Understanding that I have the upper hand, I tell her, hey, let's hear it. She plays the conversation and it's been edited. He took out the part where I was asking him for us to move past our issues and the part where I denied having him shot. So I started laughing. I'm talking about hardcore Santa Claus jolly giggling. And she says, you bastard, you recorded him, didn't you? I take out my phone, play the entire conversation. She's sitting there with her hand on her chin listening, saying, ain't this a dirty low-down son of a... The woman takes the paperwork on her desk, tears it up, throws it away, and we talk for a few minutes about my old boss. She says, you know he took another job. He saw the writing on the wall. And I told her I had been reaching out to him, but he wouldn't answer. And that's what pissed me off. Then she breaks it down for me. She says, he's an old man, darling. He's been with this company for a long time. Everything that he had was tied into the company. His office phone and his personal phone. He's not ignoring you. I have both of his phones right here in my drawer. Now, when I get back to my desk, I notice there's a red light flashing on my phone, thinking it's probably a threatening voicemail from Preston. I ignore it, get another truck, and head back into the field. Now, I'm out there texting Trouble to meet me, and when I pull up, he's like, yo, you ready for the grand finale? Park your truck and take a ride with me. He and I head directly over to where Napoleon was. And I'm like, Trouble, how in the hell do you know where this man is? He says, man, I've been put a tracker on this truck, and we have been screwing with him everywhere he goes. When he's sitting in traffic, there are thugs next to him. As soon as he leaves the parking garage, we are harassing him. This has been fun. We're sitting there in his car, and he says, watch this. Pulls out his phone, sends a text message. A few minutes later, an unmarked car pulls up. Police hop out, walk up to Napoleon, and they start to talk. You can see in his body language that he's confused. They open one of the toolboxes on the back of his truck and pull out a package and a wad of money. Now, Trouble starts rolling down the window with this proud look on his face and says, this right here, this is the best part. You need to hear this. And you can hear Napoleon saying, that's not mine. I don't know where that came from, but that's not mine. Get off me. Get off me. What are you doing? You can't arrest me. I didn't do anything wrong. I kind of felt sorry for the dude. He looked tired and worn down. They had did a number on him. Trouble, sitting there smiling, says, he ain't finna be in no major trouble, dude. Relax. He's a first-time offender. He probably lawyer up, fight it, walk away with probation. Either way it goes, he ain't your problem no more. You smell me? Then we pull off and head back to my truck. I take a moment to ask Trouble, where in the hell did you learn to think this way? His reply is playing chess. His grandpa, before he died, taught him how to play chess. Told him that playing chess would keep him alive because it would give him an advantage over everybody else in the hood because he would know how to think. Trouble goes on saying, and that's what I do, baby. I play chess with people. Blind is my boy. We came up together. And anytime he need me to play the game, I play the game for him, like what happened with Skinny. Looking at him, son, well, that was you that did that to Skinny? Yep, that was me. But you know this Amazon cat that you got us hooked up with? Now he's one hell of a chess player. Told Blinded we had to get with him. Understand, I'm waiting right now to get my intro to this dude so I can show him my skills. Understand this about Trouble. When he was passionate and he was talking about what he loved to do, he was so animated. He said, I use my mind and other people's energy to make things happen. These dudes out here running around, shooting guns, murdering children. You don't have to do none of that. None of that, baby. You just gotta outthink the next person. Man, the average street dude out here damn near kill himself if you give him a reason to. After that conversation, I called dispatch, let them know I'm back out in the field. They give me one job, and then I head home to talk to my wife. Over dinner, I explained to her that this is not going to end well. I let her hear the conversation between me and Preston, and she says, listen, honey, he's real emotional. That means he's scared. Just let him keep making mistakes. The next day I get to work and the office is all in a buzz about what happened to the Golden Boy Napoleon Dynamite. People are afraid, talking about it's not even worth it to work the job. The employees are becoming demoralized. Everyone but me. I'm chilling, sitting at my desk, and decide to check my messages. And there's two. I listen to the first one, and it's from Preston saying he requested a meeting with HR about my behavior. This fool still doesn't realize that I recorded him. So I emailed him asking a date and time, and he responds saying, right now. So now the two of us head back down to the HR lady's office, and it's her and her supervisor, the head of the entire HR department. No sooner than we sit in the chairs, Preston goes in on how I threatened him, and he recorded it, and wants to know what they're going to do about it. I say nothing. I'm sitting back, chilling, and waiting. He goes on, insinuating that the reason he got shot, the reason Napoleon was arrested, and all the troubles around the office was my fault. Now, if we're being honest, it was my fault. But I'm not being honest in this situation. And I tell him, listen, I'm just a cable guy. I'm not some kind of drug pen, guys. I don't know what the he's talking about. Understand the situation that we're sitting in. He's highly emotional. And these two people were way too calm. When he's done ranting and raving, they look at me and say, well, what do you have to say about this? My reply is very simple. He's a liar, and his track record at this company speaks for itself. The scrutiny should not be on me, it should be on him. Preston, who at this point in time I really believe had to be on steroids, rages again and says, I'm your supervisor and you threaten me. That's why we're here at Human Resources, because you are going to get fired. Understand, the woman sitting there has only said a few words, and the head of Human Resources is sitting there looking at both of us. That's when he says, you know, there's a few things in this world I hate. I hate oysters. My wife loves to eat them. Raw, nasty stuff, never liked the taste. You guys want to know what else I despise? Oh, when I tell you I despise it more than anything. Nepotism. Nepotism is worse than racism. Often confused with racism. Oh, no. I've been working in human resources for 28 years. Worked on Wall Street where they in the bathroom, did cocaine on their desk. But even those immoral bastards understood that nepotism leads to the destruction of a company when unqualified people are put in positions that they do not deserve. And from those positions, they abuse their power. He looks at Preston and says, I heard your edited recording. And then I heard the entire recording that this gentleman presented, and where he asked you to bury the hatchet and you said no. So here's what's about to happen. Both of you are going on a performance improvement plan. Both of you have 2 strikes. The next strike either one of you get, you're out of here. Gone. Now, y'all have a drink, play some cricket, have a circle jerk. I don't give a what you do, but you two need to work out your issues. Because if I hear a peep out of either one of you, you're gone. Do you understand me? Gone. Listen to me when I tell you, that wasn't what I was expecting to happen at all. But you know what? I can live with it. I had already made up my mind. I'm going to Florida, come here to high water. Just a matter of me getting a job somewhere down there. Back at the truck, I tell my wife, listen, it's going bad over here. I'm not going to last much longer. Go ahead, talk to the people down there. Let's make the move. The woman is so excited. She's at her office screaming and hollering. We did it. We did it. We did it. I can't believe this is the end.
When you first told me your name, I didn't hear a word you said, but it was written all over my face. Should've known it was you I would love until the end.
I head out for the day and bump into Blondie. He's back on his feet. He's changed his hair color. His pants are no longer sagging, and he looks a lot less like a criminal. I tell him, Blondie, what's up with the new look, baby? You looking good. He goes on to tell me that it was Amazon's idea. Amazon told him that he shined way too much. He needed to cool it down, slow down the bullshit, and invited him to go to California, and that he had taken him up on the offer. I'm like, that's good for you, bro. He goes on to check in and asks me what's up, and I tell him, listen, I think I'm going to be going down to Florida. He says, on a vacation? I say, nah, think I'm about to be moving down there for good. This look of disappointment comes over his face, but he smiles and says, yeah, you know, it's probably better that you get out the hood. It's dangerous around here. It's probably a good decision. But when you leaving? I tell him, Blondie, I'm not sure. But I tell you what, if you see a black F-150 rolling through the neighborhood, it ain't nobody but me, dog. Don't go crazy. Don't start shooting at me, right? You understand? Blondie just laughs and walks off. Back home that evening, I'm confiding in my wife and I'm telling her, babe, I really feel like I'm running from this situation. She says, no, honey, you're not running. You had plenty of chances to run when people were shooting at you and crazy stuff was going on in that neighborhood. No. You're not running. You're walking away from a bad situation. Listen to me. This was the woman that I married. Engaged, smart, attentive, loving. We had dinner that night, made love, and went to bed. The next 2 weeks were absolutely uneventful at the office. Preston and I were at a stalemate. The streets were violent as usual, but not in the areas that Amazon controlled. So I found myself working in peace, simultaneously being amazed at how one man could wield so much power over so many people. Get this, one day I'm sitting at my desk doing paperwork and I see I got one unchecked message. Understand, I'm thinking it's HR or it's Preston with some of his, but when I check the message, it's my old boss. Get this, and this message is a month old. He says, I'm down in Pensacola, Florida. I have a new job and I have a position that needs to be filled. Chills come over my body because that's exactly where my wife has gotten her job at. Now I rush down the elevator to the truck, call him from my cell phone, and he says, well, goddamn, buddy, I figured you was mad at me. I tell him, nah, you know, it's just been crazy around here, boss. You know, they brought Preston back? He says, yeah, I know. Those were the rumblings. And when I told them it was either him or me, they chose him. So I left. I go on to tell him that Napoleon Dynamite had been arrested. He says, yeah, I heard about that as well. I figured that was all you're doing. Then he goes on to lay it all out for me, saying he's been holding on to this position for a month and a half. It pays $15,000 less than what I'm currently getting paid, but if I come down there with him, he'll work on the salary. I'm like, you damn right. When can I start? His reply is, whenever you can get here. I'll have HR call you with a full relocation package. He hangs up the phone and tears well up in my eyes. I could not believe it. Now I'm calling my wife at work, telling her the good news, and this woman is screaming like she's at a Chicago Bears football game. The next day, Human Resources calls me from the new company, schedules packers and movers. I get a $10,000 bonus for the move and the deposit. Over dinner, my wife and I discuss what we should do next. Should we sell a house? Should we rent it? We decide the best thing to do is list the house, put it on the market, get rid of it, because we have absolutely no intentions to come back to Chicago. Listen to me when I tell you, we are excited because in 45 days, it's bye-bye Chi-Town. 31 days pass, and then all hell breaks loose. It's like Preston actually felt it coming. He starts with, I always get to work on time. Sometimes I get to work way early. I'm out in the field, and he starts emailing me, CCing Human Resources, asking where I am. Instead of going tick for tack with him, I simply reply with a picture of me in the bucket truck at work and never saying a word. Then one morning I come to work and notice my computer's already on. Listen to me when I tell you, I always turn my computer off in the evening. I always turn it off. Next thing you know, Preston is emailing me about inappropriate websites that I've been visiting. So I look at the browser history, and it's all kind of porn downloaded on my computer. Now we're headed back to the HR office. He is accusing me of downloading porn to my computer. The woman from HR is looking at him like he's crazy. She says, "Are you sure you want to file this? Because it will be investigated. There will be a very thorough investigation of this." But he insists, and I say nothing to either one of them because at this point, none of it matters. I pull out my 2 weeks notice, give her a copy, and give him a copy, and proceed to say this: I have to scan a badge to come in and leave this building. And the records of my coming and going will show that whoever did this on my computer did it while I was away from the building. Also, I have to scan to get a truck out of the garage and to get the truck back into the garage. So again, there will be ample proof as to when this happened and the fact that I was nowhere near my computer when this all went down. Then I get up, walk back to my desk, and start clearing my out just in case the head of HR over everybody decides to fire me that day. Out in the field, riding through the south side that day was really emotional for me. I had become attached to this place, the people, the drama. I headed over to Blondie's place, and they tell me he's still in California. So I text Trouble telling him to have Blondie give me a call, but he never responds back. Chunk and Amazon were gone as well. So I did my work. Headed back to the office, put my 2 weeks vacation time in the system, left and went home. The rest of that time started to pass fast. Next thing you know, the movers are there, packing our stuff. We're showing the house and getting solid offers. My time in Chi-Town is quickly coming to an end. So I hop in my truck, head on over to the south side looking for Blondie, but he still ain't around. Head over by Chunk, and the word is him and Amazon are still in California. A few days later, I leave the city slightly heartbroken because I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to none of my people. Now get this, we're literally in our cars on our way to Florida, moving truck in front of us, and I get an email from HR in my personal email saying that Preston has been fired and they want me to come back because no one else is willing to go into the south side. It's my girl in HR, but I simply reply to her saying the company will find someone else to do the job. God bless you and thank you for your help. Now what happens next put everything in complete and total perspective for me. She simply replied to me with a smiley face. I found that to be absolutely amazing. All the stress, all the drama, all the things that went on at this job, the shootings, the stabbings, the robberies, the firings, the hirings, all this stuff had happened. And the company just moved on like I was never there. Had I seen it this way from the beginning, I would have made the decision to leave Chicago a long time ago. But I was deluded. I believed that my value was more than what it truly was. Now, my wife and I are in Florida. Life is beautiful. My job is good. We got a house on the beach. Things are freaking fantastic. But I tell you what, the lessons that I learned on the south side of Chicago can't ever be unlearned. Why? Because I don't want to ever unlearn them. I have a better understanding of people and human nature than I've ever had in my life, and I'm thankful for that.
Time down here is spent. It's in every single line. Hope you know it was you that I loved until the end.